Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Banger. All right, good morning, everybody. Sorry, no stream yesterday. Something came up and had no stream, but we're back. So much news, lots to cover. We kind of just have a very widespread today, a lot of variety. Gonna take a look at, we'll look at OpenAI and how they said they're now expanding Stargate to countries, or OpenAI for countries, which is interesting. Excuse me. We'll also take a look at OpenAI's plan to abandon its nonprofit conversion, which I think it was like the news broke like Monday or Tuesday, day or two ago. Jensen Huang, NVIDIA CEO, recently did an interview and commented on the Chinese AI market, which is interesting. So probably take a look at that. Mistral AI released a new model. We might take a look at that. I don't know. Let's see. Amazon launched a new robot that has a sense of touch. I don't know how that works, so we'll take a look at that. And Asus/Xbox leaked. There's a leak of Xbox branded Asus handheld gaming device, like a Steam Deck type of thing. And so we'll take a look at that. And then we got the Fed Reserve meeting at 11, which it is a big meeting because no one knows really what's going to happen exactly. And we'll look at some other stuff leading up to that closer to 11. And yeah, it's got a bunch of cool news today, more so. Like this, like this, like that. Okay. This is Amazon's, what did I, OpenAI for countries. Okay. We'll cover this and then we'll look at OpenAI for countries. You can't really see the full headline. It says Amazon's Vulcan robots now stow items faster than humans. And this is their new robot. And actually we do have I have a video. Let's watch the video. 12-minute long video, so we'll watch this. CNBC. Is this how much of this is cut off? It's kind of okay. It's a tiny amount. We're good.
Amazon's new robot Vulcan doesn't look like a person or move like one.
This is
I guess context. Let's just think about Amazon. They are logistics. Mainly they deal with logistics nowadays. They also are in many other, they're just a conglomerate, but deal with logistics. Amazon has kind of always had interesting robots. There's been other like showcases in the past of them showing things like their little like ground robots that like lift things and move. The humans that do most of the work that are borderline treated like robots, let's be real. But I don't know, I don't really see much like inside, I don't see much like behind the scenes, I guess, unless it's like PR type of shit. So yeah, curious to see what this is. Could feel the item it's handling.
the robotic gripper. This is the hand.
Okay.
These are paddles
The sense of touch.
that can squeeze the item.
But it's doing a job that until now only people at Amazon could do, stowing thousands of items into bins.
Our hands are one of those most amazing.
Wait, so it looks like there's like conveyor belts on the thing. Like it's like here, and then it like conveyor belted it out.
Hands are one of those most amazing parts of our bodies. And it's that physical intelligence, that physical AI that we're trying to give to the Vulcan robots.
While other robots rely on cameras, Vulcan is Amazon's first robot that's able to feel the items it touches. meaning it can
Interesting.
handle way more items than past robots, choosing and placing them accurately.
So on a single shelf, you might be able to create a certain size space, maybe for a dog toy, but not for a basketball. The robot is doing that assessment.
I don't know how, like, it seems like this is like they fill these carts and then these carts go to be packaged or something. Maybe it's like determines like what size box they have. Like, they're kind of sharing a lot without any context. So I imagine like humans decide and like put what they could fit in each little cubby before, and then now the robot could do it, and it's like scanning it. I don't really see how it having a sense of touch really comes into play yet, though. I guess depending on how to grab the thing or like how much to squeeze it, depending on like how it feels. Oh.
So as Amazon empowers...
Oh yeah, these things. Oh yeah, those things were... This actually wasn't what I was talking about. But this is a version. Actually, no, this is a version of what I was talking about. This one has a conveyor belt on top, it looks like. Literally like a fucking factory video game. But they could also go and like lift up like taller shelves. And this is what I've seen before that Amazon has. It says AR, is that Amazon robot? Kind of neat. And then this looks like it's above, and then these are chutes down. Like, honestly, it's so cool. Like, the logistics, it's literally just like playing Factorio, but in real life.
So as Amazon empowers some of its 750,000 plus robots with more and more skills like ours, is Vulcan the robot that could finally eliminate the need for Amazon's human workforce?
There may be a reduction in workforce, but no, the workers will still be needed and the workers will be more efficient.
We went to Spokane, Washington to get the world's first look at Vulcan, fully in use on the warehouse floor, and ask its lead creator exactly how it works, why it's a game changer, and what's stopping robots from replacing all the people at Amazon warehouses like this one.
It's interesting too, because it even has a different arm that pulls up this little like elastic like cover on the front.
So the warehouse is 2.6 million square feet.
Whoops.
It has 2,500 full and part-time employees.
Those are
One thing I did saw an interview recently with I can't remember what company. They make robot arms. The CEO of a robotic arm company, just a robots company, but it's kind of more of a Silicon Valley-esque, like newer style, not like a legacy, I guess, robots manufacturing company. But he did say that one of the biggest things about robotics is that even if you have the piece of robotics, let's just use an arm because that's kind of what it is here. He said most places don't have the skill or just the resources to actually implement the robot arm into their production line. Like the actual implementation is the hard part, and no one does that, or there's not enough. It's either too expensive, they don't really know like who to go to, etc. And he even said that it was to the point where most states would literally match your investment in robotics, but it was irrelevant because most places don't even know how to like do it or implement the robot. So it's not like anyone was even taking the grant. So it's literally states were like, we'll pretty much offer you like free robots if you just pay some money. We'll give you some more to get some like other robots, and that wasn't even enough to incentivize people because the actual implementation is so hard. Which is kind of crazy to think about, that it's not even a matter of, getting the robots. It's more so just like actually implementing it. And I think he did bring a good point where it's like a lot of smaller, especially in America, and I'm talking about America specifically, a lot of smaller manufacturing joints are very like, they're like multi-generational. They're very like conservative, not in like a political sense, but in just the sense of them not wanting to, they don't like change. So, and I think that, and I talk about that like a lot here on stream. Like I think embracing change, especially technological change for the better, especially when it saves you money in the long run, that, that's kind of like how we are, that's how we're going to build a better future, I guess, with technology. Waiting till the last minute or waiting for like better economic incentives. I don't know. I don't really think. I feel like you know, if there are prices you pay to be on the cutting edge, but it's both good and bad. And I feel like generally it's more net good, especially if especially if other people are starting to adopt the technology too, because you know that the market will grow around you. But anyways, it's the technological adoption curve. It's literally, it could be applied to so many things, and those multi-generational kind of more like conservative as in staying the same, not liking change. They are a laggard on the technological adoption curve. They want to wait until all the kinks have been ironed out before they even, take a look at the actual new technology, i.e. a robotic arm for their factory that will save them money over time, and etc. I don't know. To me, it seems just like very unfortunate that is a situation we're in, and it seems like a failure on the part of the manufacturers, I guess, of the robotic arms. Like, you want more people to buy your arm? You want more people to buy your product? Then create a better implementation system. Fund other companies to help customers like implement things. Create a division yourself. Create a service. I don't know. Anyways, let's continue.
Employees are handling 3.5 million items every week here, with a lot of help from thousands of robots. Amazon says globally, robots help with 75% of all orders.
Amazon is one of the most advanced robot users in the world. Their robot warehouses are an astonishing.
Dang, look at that.
There's some 5,000.
Wait, this is what I was talking about. This is what I've seen before. But these are the same ones those same robots that we saw before with the little conveyor belts on top. Modular. It's also interesting that this isn't like top heavy or anything.
Robotic drive units here, ferrying packages around and tall yellow bins filled with items.
Instead of a human being going to get the product from the shelf comes to the human being.
Except for some drive units, most of Amazon's robots, including Vulcan, operate.
Bro, that shit went around the guy. That was cool.
Instead of a human being going to get the product from the shelf comes to the human being.
Except for some drive units, most of Amazon's robots, including Vulcan, operate behind a fence.
To make sure
interesting.
that everyone around them is safe.
I was wondering, like, this looks so fucking dense in here. Like it looks kind of crazy. Like, how would you even get in here to like do shit? Like, this chick's working right here, but like, bro, you're working in like a fucking technological prison. Like, just cables and gates and robot arms swinging everywhere, like conveyor belts. Like, this is like logistic hell. Logistic hell. That's probably a good way just to describe Amazon in general.
Them is safe.
Robotic arms like Cardinal, Robin, and the newer Sparrow have been moving items and packages around in Amazon warehouses since 2021. But those primarily rely on cameras for detection and suction for grasp.
So we give the robot a sense of touch using a sensor that measures force in all 3 directions.
Force in all 3 directions? What is... like XYZ?
Aaron Parnes spent 10 years developing robotics for space at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory before joining Amazon in 2019. Now he leads the team that developed Vulcan. When the idea first came up, he thought it was impossible.
There was a recent PhD graduate who was trying to get the robot to stow items into the fabric pods. My first impression was, oh, how naive. The real world is going to teach this new grad that robots can't do these things.
Then the team came up with the Gripper with a special sensor and
Gripper.
some key movement capabilities.
Like sweeping the items to one side. And I had this pivot.
That's interesting.
This is never going to work to, oh my gosh, this is the future.
The final result, Vulcan.
So this robot actually does quite a bit. Like, it is impressive the more you learn about it. Like, at first it's like, okay, cool, but now it's like, it does a lot.
A 3-part system. An employee puts an item from these yellow bins onto a conveyor, where it's picked up by the first part, a moving robotic structure called a gantry.
Like, bro, this shit is so complex. Look how many moving parts there are. Like, I want to be a repairman for this shit. Like a technician.
Which is a robot that moves horizontally and vertically. We'll take that bag of Skittles and put it into our buffer wall. it waits there until the robot makes a match. So the robot brain is looking for an opportunity where it can create enough space to put that bag of Skittles.
Next, it's picked up by this robotic round foam disc.
We affectionately call that the squash turner. So it reorients the item, kind of like it sounds. Things like books where you want the titles facing out, or things where you need to align it so that it'll fit in the space.
Bro, this shit is so complex. Because I was wondering, like, I thought the pressure would be to, like, how to grab the thing. But if it's kind of already orientating it into the correct way, then I still don't quite understand what the pressure is there for. I guess it's just knowing how much to squeeze it then, I guess. That has to be it. So I guess, though, they keep saying how it doesn't use cameras, so maybe before it would take a picture of it, then it would like, you know, whatever algorithm they have, or some sort of like image recognition model, they would probably analyze where to grab the thing, or they maybe already pre-programmed like certain items to grab in certain areas, and then it could go from there, or it's just like suction cups, so it doesn't matter. This one doesn't seem like it. It seems like maybe, but it has to be taking a picture of it. It's reorienting it. I guess I just want to know if like this is this is cool, but like, is it the most efficient way? It's Amazon, so it has to be. Let's be real.
Finally, the item is picked up by the gripper.
It has conveyor belts built in, and so the item feeds forward and backward. So the gripper has a sense of force on its grasp axis as well. So we don't squeeze a bag of Skittles as strongly as we squeeze a physics textbook.
So that is definitely...
That precise amount of pressure and torque is determined by an AI-powered sensor.
Okay.
This is the sense of touch that until now, experts say hasn't been put into commercial use in robotics.
The other thing that's super cool here is this guy. It's an extended sort of spatula, and the force sensor, the thing that we're feeling the world, sits right behind here, right on that spatula.
This new ability to adjust pressure means Vulcan can handle up to 75% of the 1 million unique items in inventory here in Spokane.
I see. And so that's probably a good metric for the robotics, is like what percentage of items can it handle? And I could see that now. That's interesting. So that's probably what they're trying to maximize then. Like if they could have a few robots that handle a majority of the inventory items for like packing or whatever at like, I don't know, this step in the logistics chain, I imagine that is probably a good metric, because then you could just have less robots overall that could handle more volume or more of the inventory items.
Amazon's Sparrow robotic arm can handle some 60% of items, while Robin and Cardinal only manipulate packages.
Got it.
We're also using generative AI to predict how the items are going to move. So if I push on the t-shirt, is it going to compress versus if I push on the bowling
That's crazy,
ball?
actually.
Vulcan's final step.
But that's so much detail. Like, that's so much detail.
Perfect spot to stow the item adds some major efficiency gains for Amazon.
One of the use cases we have for AI is predicting how much space we can make in a bin, and then taking the right item that maximizes the filling of that predicted space.
So a bit like Tetris.
It is a bit like Tetris.
I mean, that's like legit. That's just all logistics. Let's be real.
There is one robot you won't see all over the warehouse floor. In 2023, Amazon announced Digit, a humanoid robot by Agility Robotics that it's testing to help organize and move totes. In 2024, CNBC saw Digit being tested, but it's a long way off from being deployed at scale.
These robots don't need to be limited by a human form. They could be better than us. So why
Yes. Thank you, bro. Thank you. This guy, I talk about it all the time on stream. It's like, I feel like we're only making humanoid robots look like humans because that's just how our environment is. But like, is that really the most efficient way? Just because humans are like that and we built around it? I think the idea is that we don't have to change our world, and we could instead adapt the robots to be like us. But I still don't think that even is the best way. I still think there's probably more efficient ways to navigate the human world.
wheels. And that's the question: is why are you putting legs on the thing? Why are you making it a humanoid form when there are better shapes?
Yes.
Vulcan, meanwhile, is not at all humanoid.
Right.
Does Vulcan represent a moment where robotics have gone from gimmick to real-world application?
To me, it doesn't matter if the robot has legs or wheels or it's bolted to the floor. I think the thing that makes the robot useful is having that sense of touch so that it can interact in high contact and high clutter environments. That's the tipping point for me, and I think we're right there, and it's so exciting.
Amazon says Vulcan operates at about the same speed as a human for now, but it also doesn't need to rest.
Right, and it could be run in parallel. You don't have to pay consistent wages. There's no drama with a fucking robot unless it breaks down. Like, there's definitely other benefits beside it being faster. Because I mean, like, really, I think it's the parallelability, being able to like just scale up this like horizontally, infinitely. You know, as fast as you could get robots. That's kind of the benefit, and it can be ran 24/7. No breaks. No unions yet. Robot unions. Will we actually have like robot unions and like shit like that if they actually become more like able to like think for themselves, quote unquote, in a way? And arguably, if they are able to think for themselves, probably bigger problems. But like, will we have like civilizations ran by like droids, like fucking Star Wars?
Downtime for maintenance and repairs and those kinds of things, but the robot is able to operate, 20 hours a day.
Which begs the question, why wouldn't Amazon replace all its workers with robots?
If you build a terribly complicated automated system and it breaks, then everything stops.
Yeah.
Taking out the last human is so expensive. It's so disruptive.
That's interesting.
It would be a huge investment and an enormous risk.
Instead, Amazon says Vulcan will create more jobs that are higher skilled, saying it spent more than $1.2 billion on free training to upskill 350,000 of its workers in the last 5 years.
That's actually like, I think this is good, and this is exactly what corporations should be doing to employees that are jobs get the jobs disappear or being replaced by humans, is just retrain them. They're gonna need people to work on the fucking robots. Like you already invested in an employee that's working for you, and like they're already like have gone through all the processes. So it's like you might as well pay to retrain them, give them a pay bump, better, improve everything about them after their job after they get this training. And it's just, feel like it's a pretty win-win-win situation. I just love Michael Scott. Oh, win-win-win. The negotiator wins. Okay. But this is what they should be doing. I don't think the tax, Andrew Yang's tax, is like that doesn't incentivize innovation. I know the market could probably do that, but yeah, So, I don't know. It's interesting. Okay.
Jobs are going to be in maintaining and operating the robots, in installing and building the robots.
I think it will be an increase in more interesting jobs and a decrease in the dull, the dirty, and dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, and I think that's a good way to looking at it, especially with fucking Amazon, who like treats their warehouse workers like less than, like they're borderline not even human already. Let's be real. So really, it's the transition from Amazon handling robots to humans in their mind is probably no different in a way. Like, we didn't give them bathroom breaks anyway, so that's there. Now they don't have to take any breaks. So, yeah. It is crazy, like, what people do working in Amazon.
And robotics will need to be working closely together.
In her 16 months at Amazon, Carrie Freitas Hardy has moved from picking to working with the robots, helping when they run into issues.
It would be many decades off to have them just come in and take over. So at this point, it's more exciting, if you ask me, to see the growth potential, because that is where it does increase jobs on the backside.
Freydis Hardy says she's not making more money in her new role, but
what the fuck? Bro, I'm telling him he's gonna suck my dick. What the hell, bro? That's not even worth it. Even if the job's cooler, you get paid like, bro, that just ruined the entire like idea of they ruined the entire idea of like paying for training to get better like paying benefits. Like, what the fuck?
But Amazon does have a free mechatronics and robotics apprenticeship program, which it says typically leads to pay increases of about 40%.
Okay, see, that's good. This is what I was expecting, because I was immediately also thinking, I was like, I could see Amazon just being like, oh, we'll pay you like 10% more, just like marginal pay difference, and like I'm sure, like depending on who the job is, I'd be like, fuck, sure. 40% is more so what I'm looking. That's like more so you're getting a new job with a higher pay for your increased skill. And so I think that this is okay. Granted, I don't know what their base pay is, so like this 40% could just find like not really actually be competitive over like to what the salary it brings it up to, but yeah, I don't know. Get the
In
point.
new roles like those at a fulfillment center in Louisiana.
There are 10 times more robots than you would find in a building like we're in today. They have the same 2,500 full-time, part-time workers that we have here, but 30% more of those jobs are high-skill technical jobs.
One reason Vulcan can't replace people is that it only handles items up to 8 pounds, and certain shapes like round objects are hard to manage.
Yeah,
But
bro,
it does
bowling
move
ball.
fast, which is why it'll remain behind this fence.
Because we want to go super fast at stowing items, the robot's moving quickly, and so it is much safer just to keep it behind a fence.
The robotic drive units on the floor with workers are controlled by QR codes and radio signals coming from special vests.
Oh, I
worn
was
by
wondering
workers
what that
like
was.
Freydis Hardy, so they know to slow down and avoid her.
So our
What
pods
the
are
fuck?
moving at quite a little bit of a pace, and you do not want to get run into by a pod. It could drag you around the floor. So again, safety is key here.
In fact, one of Vulcan's key objectives is to improve worker safety by stowing and picking in the less ergonomic high and low shelves. Limiting workers to mid-height shelves, the so-called power zone, could lower the chance for worker injuries. Amazon has long struggled with injury rates far higher than those at other warehouses.
Yeah, bro, because you work them like robots. That's what I'm saying, bro. Fuck. Like, yeah, bro, when you treat your employees like robots, then what do you expect?
So Amazon claims those rates have improved significantly.
It's all day long and repetitive motions. I'm up and down the ladder, I'm squatting, I'm lunging. I hurt my knee because I was personally doing some bad body mechanics. I know that as a picker,
Bro, shut the fuck up, bro. She's like blaming herself.
if I had an innovation like this where I could have stayed within my power zone, my days would have been just so much easier.
One of our key metrics we look at is safety. So what percentage of the stows is it doing to the top 3 or 4 rows where the employee would have to reach overhead? We have a plan for that metric to get to 100%.
The hardest part of doing this job, I would say, is the repetitiveness.
Stower Daniel DeMaio has been at Amazon more than 11 years.
I expect everything to be fully automated within 10 years. I mean, absolutely, the way technology is going, and it has to be because of customer demand, I'm sure.
But at least for now, experts say fully automated warehouses without humans aren't coming anytime soon.
Yeah.
We used to call them dark warehouses, dark factories. We don't tend to talk about those anymore. Humans are so flexible. There's so much that a human can do that now very much we think about how can I bring in robots without having to make my factory dark.
At one point, there were
Interesting. I wonder if they call it dark factory because it's like, since no humans there, you don't even need lights on. Which is a big cost, mind you. Surprisingly, lighting fucking giant ass warehouses. I can't remember. I heard some like crazy stat about like how much it costs to like light Costco, and it's like Costco pays like so much money just to keep the lights on. Like actually, literally just the lights above you.
the fully dark warehouses that were all automated, 24 hours a day. Is that still the future?
No, not at all. Like, I don't believe in 100% automation. If we had to get Vulcan to do 100% of the stows and picks, it would never happen.
So if jobs won't be eliminated, what is the big ROI for robots like Vulcan?
Product returns are incredibly high, and product returns are incredibly expensive. Some of them will be because the wrong thing was put in the box. And if you can reduce that, that's a real cost saving straight away.
Interesting.
For now, Vulcan is
Accuracy.
only in 2 warehouses, this one in Spokane and one in Hamburg, Germany, and it's processed about 500,000 orders. Existing robotic arms like Robin have sorted about 4 billion packages.
Holy
Amazon
shit.
wouldn't disclose how much it costs to develop Vulcan, but it says it took 3
Millions.
years and a team that's grown to 250 people. And Parnas says Vulcan is a huge business opportunity.
But Vulcan can interact with the world in a more human-like manner, and that gives us a lot more process paths that we can use automation to bring down the cost that our customer pays and the speed with which we can deliver those products to our customers.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. But that's cool. It's interesting too because this is not what most people think about. Like when they think like robot, they literally think humanoid robot, but like most robots are just arms in factories. Like they're not necessarily of the humanoid type. Humanoid robots are relatively new. Arms have been around for a long time. That's what most manufacturing is. So that's cool. It's interesting that to see maybe like the more less consumer focused, more specific to a company, but still a robot with like pushing technology nonetheless. So yeah, interesting. Interesting. Okay. Let's do some reading. Yeah, we already covered this. What do I have in my title? I have new Xbox handheld aimed on new robots. Okay, let's look at OpenAI. OpenAI. All right, I know nothing about this. I've saved it all for this for the stream. Introducing OpenAI for countries. The only thing I know is that it's related to Stargate. Now, I think Stargate, I don't really get Stargate because I just don't get how they're paying for it, more so. The announcement, the announcement came after the first campus has already been underway. In Texas, and it's being built by Oracle. And if we actually look, we could look at, let me see if I can find it. I guess I don't understand how they're gonna pay for it, because they said they're gonna invest $500 billion. The money's coming from mostly, if not all of it, from SoftBank, Masayoshi-san. SoftBank just invested in OpenAI, which invested in OpenAI in their latest round, said that they're going to give them $10 billion, and that, I actually am just thinking about this now, but they did say that the rest of the money is they will get after they convert to a for-profit, and it has to be before 2025. So I'm curious now with the OpenAI like moving to like a public benefit corporation now and keeping the nonprofit. I wonder if that's going to be in jeopardy. But SoftBank said they're going to give $500 billion for Project Stargate, or Stargate Project. They should call it Project Stargate Project. You can put the project up front. For Stargate. But they didn't even have the money to invest in OpenAI. They had to take on debt to invest in OpenAI. So it's like, how the fuck are they going to get $500 billion? $500 billion. So I just don't think, like, it's crazy that they're offering this, but it's like, haven't even finished the first campus. Let's go to, I think, Semi-Analysis, who they do a lot of data center stuff. I think let's go Semi-Analysis Stargate. I don't know if I'll be able to find it, but there was a satellite images I saw somewhere. Oh, yep, here it is. This is the actual campus itself in Texas being built. But this is it. This is the only thing they had, and they started it a long time ago. Yeah, Stargate Joint Venture. So, saying that SoftBank has well under $10 billion of funding secured. Yep. And this was written in January 2023. This is written in January 2025. So shortly after it was announced. Or the day it was announced, maybe. I don't know. Because this is like, inauguration was 20th, 21st. Well, look, it's like the headline, $500 billion is such an earth-shattering number that has caused deserved skepticism from folks like Elon Musk. It's like, bro, fuck Elon Musk, but I agree with him here. Stating that SoftBank has well under $10 billion of funding secured. And that was kind of confirmed now that after SoftBank agreed to invest in OpenAI in them having to take on debt to do so. And they gave him $10 billion. Simon clapped back saying it was already under construction and to come visit it. Yes, my dude, but if this is $500 billion, then you're getting ripped off. This is not $500 billion. This is, you know. The reality is that only the first phase is certain, which is a proportion of committed $100 billion. Right. But the top line number being, okay. So, yeah, so, you know, they don't even have the money to do that. And now this seems like this is OpenAI for countries is Stargate, but now for your country, which to me is like, okay, so we're just going to build a data center. So yeah, let's read and then find out together. I'm getting warm though. Hang on one sec. And then I need around 11 though. We'll pull up the Fed stream. I just need to be reminded. I just haven't been able to find the stream yet. It's not scheduled yet, which is kind of weird. There's like nothing scheduled. Whatever, it'll pop up. Okay. Introducing OpenAI for countries, a new initiative to support countries around the world that want to build on democratic AI rails. This is also interesting because I kind of see this as OpenAI, like politicking, you know, like this is OpenAI wanting to assert their influence on democratic AI across the world, likely similar to what China wants to do, and a reason why China is taking the open source AI route is just to flood the markets. It's like, oh, the like best free ones are all Chinese. Like, oh, I guess I'll just use, you know, like Chinese AI, you know, models. And I think, you know, we do have Meta, Llama, and like Mistral and shit, but arguably not up to the same standard as something like DeepSeek or Qwen now, arguably. But I guess the whole point is this is just influence, and especially now with considering Trump administration's policies and strategies, where the kind of soft U.S. power is going away. It's kind of non-existent now, and that is going to have downstream effects for U.S. businesses, especially in markets where it's emerging. We kind of need some sort of foothold in, you know, in the rest of the world to kind of introduce them to the new product, i.e. AI. That might not be true, but I think it would definitely help. And everyone just fucking hates America right now too. And so it's like, you know, do we want to use American AI? Do we want to depend on American AI when we have a, you know, borderline tyrant in the White House right now? You know, it's like, okay, Chinese AI is kind of looking good. I disagree. I'm just being hyperbolic, but you get the point. So OpenAI doing this is interesting because I see it as them inserting, you know, wanting to influence other parts of the world to adopt their AI. And there's actually, in a recent interview with Mark Zuckerberg on Dwarkesh Patel podcast, Zuckerberg, and also in OpenAI's nonprofit conversion, which we could look at after this, they kind of said, Zuckerberg straight up said that he sees that the market for AI to be being like much more fragmented, in the sense that I feel like a lot of people have a idea that like AGI, that there's just gonna be like one AI company that rules everything for everything, and Zuck seems to think that it's going to be more like fragmented and siloed, where it's like, you know, like Anthropic could be like the best coding one, and so they could be have a coding AI, maybe ChatGPT, or 4.0, 03, whatever their future models are, GPT-5. Maybe they're really good at like emotional intelligence and like talking to people, and then maybe like Llama is just good for like customer service and tool use or something. I don't know, but that's kind of what Zuck is saying, and I think that's an interesting take, but also he's definitely incentivized to say that, considering that arguably Llama is like not the best, and so like as someone who isn't like necessarily in the lead, you kind of want to like say that just because it helps you, I guess. So I mean, there is that to think about, but I do think that like it is weird to think that like it's just going to be like one single company that just runs the entire world's AI. Like OpenAI just like winning everything in every single market. And like that, I definitely don't think that, I agree with that, and I don't think that's going to be how it is. And it's already very fragmented now. I know it's early days, but it is fragmented. So OpenAI now trying to push their political influence elsewhere is interesting. Yeah, let's read and we'll get some more detail. Our Stargate project, an unprecedented investment in America's AI infrastructure, announced in January with President Trump that our partners Oracle and SoftBank is now underway with our first supercomputing campus in Abilene, Texas, and more sites to come. We've heard from many countries asking for help in building out similar AI infrastructure. Interesting that they want their own Stargate and similar projects. I don't understand what their own Stargate means. Is it just data centers? Or data center operator? It's clear to everyone now that this kind of infrastructure is going to be the backbone of future economic growth and national development. Technological innovation has always driven growth by helping people do more than they otherwise could. AI will scale human ingenuity itself and drive more prosperity by scaling our freedom to learn, think, create, and produce all at once. Okay, guys, let's get to the meat. We want to help these countries in that process spread democratic AI. What does that even mean? I mean, I know what it means, but like... Which means, oh, here we go. The development, use, and deployment of AI that protects and incorporates long-standing democratic principles. See, yeah, this is them being like, you could pick the democratic American AI or the like communist, Chinese AI. Examples of this include the freedom for people to choose how they work with and direct AI, prevent the government from using AI to amass control, and a free market that ensures free competition. What is this? Wait, I'm so confused. Examples of this include freedom for people to choose how they work with and direct AI. Can you could the prevention of government use of AI to amass control in a free market. Like, this just seems like what does this have anything to do with? Why can't you do that already, I guess? Like, you could. And if they're working with governments, is OpenAI going to be the arbiter of what the government decides is like to control the AI or something? Like, all these things contribute to a broad distribution of the benefits of AI, discourage the concentration of power, and help advance our mission. Likewise, we believe that partnering closely with the U.S. government is the best way to advance democratic AI. Oh. Interesting. Today we're introducing OpenAI for Countries, a new initiative within the Stargate project. This is a moment when we need to act to support countries around the world that would prefer to build on democratic AI rails and provide a clear alternative to authoritarian versions of AI that would deploy it to consolidate power. Like this, they have to be talking about China. I know specifically with DeepSeek, I was banned from DeepSeek. I used a burner email. I was asking about COVID. It wouldn't answer, and then I was like, okay, cool. And I stopped using, tried to go back, and then I was just banned. And I couldn't use burner email again. But I think that's kind of the idea. That's like, it's like the Chinese AI models are very censored. You can't talk like about China, like bad about it. Anything that's controversial relating to China, pretty much you can't talk about. So, yeah. In response to these interested governments, OpenAI is offering a new kind of partnership for the intelligence age. Through formalized infrastructure, collaborations, and in coordination with the US government, OpenAI will... I wonder in what way they're collaborating with the US government. Partner with countries to help build in-country data center capacity. These secure data centers will help support the sovereignty of a country's data, build a new local industry, and make it easy to customize AI and leverage their data in a private and compliant way. I have a analogy. I could see what is happening now. Let's finish reading this and I'll share. Provide customized ChatGPT to citizens. Okay. This will deliver improved healthcare and education, more efficient public services, and more. This will be AI of, by, and for the needs of each particular country, localized in their language and for their culture, and respecting future global standards. Something else Zuck said is that, he used an example of, let's just use like Czech. It was like, I don't know, it was like some like Eastern European country or something, and it was just like, that was using like llama models, and he's like, the models were great, but they're like, it just sounded like everything was coming from an American. And they're like, well, like, was the translation not good or like whatever? Like, no, like the translation was good. It's just like, it was just an American centric view of the world, like what American exceptionalism or some shit they call it. And so he was like, that kind of spurred this idea of like localizing the AI to culture, and how sometimes the AI may need to take a different set of like values in order for it to fit in fully to the culture of the user that's talking to it. And I think that was an interesting idea. It kind of seems like this is what OpenAI is doing with the OpenAI's country. I don't know fully like how much they're going to change it, but it just says in their language and their culture, respecting future global standards. So that's interesting. And I think that this is a good way to really get other countries to use an American AIs to actually tailor it to the local language and standards. And I'm just going to continue this thought with my other ones, or with the one I said I was going to continue later. But what I actually see OpenAI doing right now is similar to what we are doing with military bases. If OpenAI is actually going to be operating these data centers, these like sovereign data centers in the actual countries themselves, this is literally almost exactly the same as America putting military bases in your country, offering to protect you. And then now, you have American influence in your country. You have this like American managed thing in your country, and now you're kind of like tied to us, and that's kind of the soft. This is more hard influence. I feel like this isn't like the soft influence like USAID or something, but the military is definitely hard influence. OpenAI is doing literally the same thing. They're putting data centers in your country. Think of it as a military base, American military base. They are offering services to your country in return for running this data center in your country. And now it's like this American thing that is in another country, but it's under American control, or at least an American corporation's control, which might as well be the same thing. And this is just a way for us to insert more influence. And if you actually think about military, how AI is kind of the new it could be the new like weapon of the future, whether that be propaganda, it deciding on, you know, whatever, however militaristically we're using it, but also just in general, this is kind of like the new future. This is the new race. And so if we want, you know, just as the United States moves nuclear weapons and around the world and different, you know, bases and such, AI is kind of that new technology. And so we want to insert our influence on this new technology or weapon across the world. And this is what this seems like it's doing, especially now that they're coordinating and collaborating with the US government. Could be a huge rant, like, you know, wrong speculation, but I'm seeing the parallels in both of those. Okay, let's keep reading here. Continue evolving security and safety controls for AI models. As our models become more powerful, we will continue to make investments in the process and controls, including the data center and physical security needed to deploy, operate, and protect them as part of AI safety. It is critical to respect democratic processes and human rights. We're excited to collaborate on future direction for global democratic input to shape AI. Yeah, process and controls, including the data center and physical security needed to deploy, operate, and protect them. Literally, like, they're talking about physical security to protect the AI. Like, bro, this is literally, data centers are just the new, like, military base, bro. That's crazy. Together, raise and deploy a national startup fund. With local as well as OpenAI capital, together we can seed healthy national AI ecosystems so the new infrastructure is creating new jobs, new companies, new revenue, and new communities for each country, while also supporting existing public and private sector needs. Partner countries also would invest in expanding the global Stargate project, and thus in continued US-led AI leadership in a global growing network effect for democratic AI. So are they saying that partner countries also would invest in expanding the global Stargate project? So is this how OpenAI is going to get to the $500 billion? They're going to like pay OpenAI. OpenAI is going to make some money, and then they'll build a data center, but then they'll use the rest of the profits to like continue expanding Stargate. Yeah, this is interesting, and the only other, like, AI company I could think of that's doing this much, like, politicking is, like, the other big tech companies. Like, Google. Although Google doesn't even need to, because they already have a distribution system, i.e. all of the previous Google services for Gemini, so that I feel like that's different. Microsoft is just invested in OpenAI. So, I mean, they have OpenAI in their back pocket, and they're also developing their own models, and they have their own, you know, data center needs and expansion plans. You know, they're spending like $80 billion, I think, this year. But although Microsoft has canceled quite a bit of data center capacity for varying reasons. And then we have Meta with Llama. And again, they are like arguably one of the most used services worldwide. So like they have a crazy distribution system already. OpenAI just doesn't really have that. Their core product is ChatGPT, and it's on inside an existing platform or technology. And they're kind of a pure play AI company, I guess is what you could say. Full stack AI company, you know, all the way now to the data center. And they've invested in other chip companies too. If not, I wouldn't be surprised if they also are like have their own chip or at least semiconductor, some sort of department internal for that, or like evaluating them or something, you know. So they'll get there eventually is kind of the point. Okay, let's see. It says, as OpenAI moves forward with OpenAI for countries, our goal is to pursue 10 projects with individual countries or regions as as the first phase of this initiative and expand from there. We look forward to engaging with interested countries through representatives in the US and through our executives based in our offices around the world. Like, yeah, your ambassador. So this is interesting. This is crazy. This is OpenAI asserting influence across the world. Here's another. I love this picture. Actually, when they announced the Stargate project, I used this exact same picture, and I put like Trump's face on there with money or something. But yeah, it's exactly. This is here. Stargate project. The company has asked for representatives on interested governments to reach out through their representatives in the U.S. OpenAI said is seeking the formalized infrastructure collaborations, which will still be in coordination with the U.S. government. Partner countries would expect to invest in expanding the global Stargate project and thus in continued U.S.-led AI leadership and global network growing for effective for democratic AI. I wonder who the first countries will be, and I want to know the I want to know the correlation between the tariff too. I think AI will be maybe one thing that will get people to look that, like, put that aside, because I think it might be more important for them to get this AI stuff up and running than dealing with like tariff bullshit. Both the countries in OpenAI would invest in a national startup fund, so the new infrastructure is creating new jobs, new companies, new revenue, and new communities for each country. OpenAI is currently targeting 10 projects with individual countries or regions, the first phase of this initiative. Previous reports said that the company was interested in the UK, France, and Germany. Now, this is the EU, the European Union has their own AI infrastructure plans. We actually looked at it on stream a few weeks ago. Notably, France and Germany were getting data centers. UK is not part of the EU anymore, or whatever, so they're lost. But yeah. Interesting. Is there any more commentary on this? Like, this seems to kind of just be like underneath, or like not a top story. Like Bloomberg, but I likely can't read this. Nope. Oh, Axios. See if there's anything new here. Build AI infrastructures and promote AI rooted in democratic rather than authoritarian values. Global expansion will be one key to ensuring that OpenAI's massive investment pay off, and the company is arguing that it will help US counter China's influence too. New OpenAI for Countries effort announced Wednesday aims to partner with countries or regions to build and operate data centers that would serve up localized versions of ChatGPT for citizens, particularly focused on healthcare and education. Yeah, they help fund infrastructure as part of broadening Project Stargate. U.S. government, which has export control powers to determine where OpenAI could... Wait, this is big. OpenAI will be working closely with the U.S. government, which has export control powers, to determine where OpenAI technology can be deployed. That's likely why they have to work so closely with the U.S. government. And I'm sure that they're going to be maybe kind of particular with the countries themselves. Like, maybe they only want, like, fully trusted allies. Yeah, OpenAI is in the midst of restructuring its business from a capped profit partnership to a public benefit corporation. The process is not done. Boomer reported late Monday that Microsoft and OpenAI are still negotiating, and regulators have yet to give their blessing. OpenAI's announcement comes a day before Sam Altman is set to testify before the Senate committee as a hearing on winning the AI race. Oh shit. Bro, we're gonna watch this tomorrow. I don't know what this copy link to highlight goes to. Let's just look this up real quick. And we can just... $10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. We'll see. We're definitely going to watch this. So we got Brad Smith, Vice Chair and President at Microsoft. Lisa Su. Yeah, she's the CEO of AMD. That's so random. Oh, we got CoreWeave. That's interesting. We've covered CoreWeave quite a bit on stream. Then we got Microsoft and OpenAI. All right, we might just watch from the beginning, but yeah. Okay, this is interesting. Let's put this on for tomorrow. Bookmark. We have a window here to help create pathways so that a large portion of the world is building on democratic AI at a moment when the world is going to have to choose between democratic AI and autocratic AI. It's like they're saying China without saying China. The project offers countries local sovereignty over data and the ability to partner up with OpenAI on a fund to help seed a national AI ecosystem by backing local startups. OpenAI for Countries builds on the notion of democratic AI that Altman laid out in a 2024 Washington Post op-ed. It aims to capitalize on strong demand from other countries to have their own version of a Stargate, a sentiment OpenAI heard frequently during this year's AI Action Summit in Paris. The new effort is also designed to align with the Trump administration's goal of ensuring that US wins global battle for AI supremacy versus China. Jesus Christ, that scared me. My coffee's stuck to my coaster. And it lifted up with me and fell. Okay, there's plenty of disagreement in the US and globally over what democratic AI means. Because, like, if we're being real, like, OpenAI does censor a lot. Like more than you might think. So I mean, like, it is, you know, they do still, it's like mainly like for good reasons, but there's been times, even like me using like swear words and shit, where it's like it won't respond after it says it broke the rules. And I swear a lot of whatever, so. Claude is good, and Grok is too much. Grok is leans into it way too hard. Like, it's kind of, it ruins it. Claude is a good in between. Like, it just like takes what you're saying and just like doesn't really care if it's a swear word and just kind of implements it into its own system, and it just like doesn't like make a big deal about it, I guess, is the point. It's like a good in between. So anyways, one of the big questions is just how much OpenAI will be willing to customize ChatGPT. An important factor for countries weighing whether to use US or Chinese AI systems. This will be AI of, by, and for the needs of each particular country, OpenAI said in the blog post, announcing OpenAI for countries. There won't be a cookie-cutter, one-size-fits-all approach to the deals, Leanne said. There will be some places that maybe want an inference model for a specific purpose. Is this profitable, though? OpenAI's blog includes a reference to preventing AI from being used by governments to amass control. We do want to make sure we're protecting individual freedoms, Leanne said. I wonder if the government is giving OpenAI money. Because OpenAI is also a private company, they don't even have to say. Okay, this is interesting, actually. I don't I don't know. This is crazy. Should we read this op-ed here? Who will control the future of AI? A democratic vision for artificial intelligence must prevail over an authoritarian one. Let's read it. Fuck it. And then we'll look at the Asus Rogue leaks, and then we'll probably go right into the Fed meeting. Okay. Sam Altman is co-founder and CEO of OpenAI. Who will control the future of AI? That is the urgent question of our time. The rapid progress being made on artificial intelligence means that we face a strategic choice about what kind of world we are going to live in. Will it be one in which the United States and allied nations advance a global AI that spreads that technology's benefits and opens access to it? Or an authoritarian one in which nations or movements that don't share our values use AI to cement and expand their power? It is kind of ironic because that is actually exactly what OpenAI is doing themselves. Like, ChatGPT is very closed off, very secretive. They're now using Stargate to assert their influence across the world, ensuring that their AI spreads, cementing their success, cementing their power and expanding their power. Just because it's like democratic, I guess it's still the same thing. Like it's the same goal as there. Authoritarians just may, maybe want, like China just may want more allegiance to themselves, whereas we still want it in the people's hands, but we also, are under the guise of the democratic values, but still inserting the same exact power as the authoritarian. I don't know. That could be like an over analysis, but I could see that. I'm just thinking about it more abstractly, just thinking about the pattern of it, I guess. There's no third option, and it's time to decide which path to take. The United States currently has a lead in AI development, but continued leadership is far from guaranteed. Authoritarian governments the world over are willing to spend enormous amounts of money to catch up and ultimately overtake us. Russian dictator Vladimir Putin has darkly warned that the country that wins the AI race will become the ruler of the world. And People's Republic of China has said that it aims to become the global leader in AI by 2030. 5 years. Mind you, this is before all the hype bros predictions of AGI. They think it's going to happen in 2027. Or similar, or somewhere around then. I think it's going to be post 2030. If at all. These authoritarian regimes and movements will keep a close hold on the technology's scientific, health, educational, and other societal benefits to cement their power. If they manage to take the lead on AI, they will force U.S. companies and those of other nations to share user data, leveraging the technology to develop new ways of spying on their own citizens or creating next-generation cyber weapons to use against other countries. But the U.S. is doing that, though. We're doing that too. Just not in a public-facing way. The first chapter of AI is already written. Systems such as ChatGPT, Copilot, and others are functioning as limited assistants. For instance, by writing up patient visits so nurses and doctors can spend more time with the sick, or serving as more advanced assistants in certain domains, such as code generation for software engineering. Arguably, This is 2024. Really haven't moved past that. It's kind of still what it's being used for. More advanced uses will soon follow and will usher in a decisive period in the story of human society. If we want to ensure that the future of AI is a future built to benefit the most people possible, we need a US-led global coalition of like-minded countries and an innovative new strategy to make it happen. The United States is public and technology sectors need to get 4 big things right to ensure the creation of a world shaped by democratic vision of it for AI. Excuse me. First, American AI firms in the industry need to craft robust security measures to ensure that our coalition maintains the lead in current and future models and enable our private sector to innovate. I mean, okay, yeah. These measures would include cyber defense and data center security innovations to prevent hackers from stealing key intellectual property, such as model weights and AI training data. This is already DeepSeek theoretically stole training data from OpenAI, right? Many of these defenses will benefit from the power of artificial intelligence, which will make it easier and faster for human analysts to identify risks and respond to attacks. The US government and private sector can partner together to develop these security measures as quickly as possible. Wait, many of these defenses will benefit from the power of artificial intelligence. Yeah, you could use AI to help prevent it. Second, infrastructure is destiny when it comes to AI. Yeah, and arguably that is one of the biggest bottlenecks right now. The early installation of fiber optic cables, coax lines, and other pieces of broadband infrastructure is what allowed the United States to spend decades at the center of digital revolution and to build its current lead in artificial intelligence. US policymakers must work with the private sector to build significantly larger quantities of the physical infrastructure, from data centers to power plants that run the AI systems themselves. Data centers buildup is going along the way, but it also seems like chips, you know, the compute itself is not there, and we don't. Power is a kind of an unknown right now because I think there's also a lot of up in the air with Trump administration on like green energy and shit. I know that like a lot of I've seen quite a few articles recently about like wind energy maybe going like not getting as much support as it needs now. I know nuclear is the big people think nuclear is just going to save us, but it may, I don't know. But those are far out. Those are like 2030 plus. So yeah, not much has changed since like this, honestly. Public-private partnerships to build this needed infrastructure will equip U.S. firms with the computing power to expand access to AI and better distribute its societal benefits. We really have not seen much of it yet, let's be real. Building the infrastructure will also create new jobs nationwide. We are witnessing the birth and evolution of a technology I believe to be as momentous as electricity or the internet. AI can be the foundation of a new industrial base it would be wise for a country to embrace. Possibly. We need to contemplate the proverbial bricks and mortar with substantial investment in human capital. As a nation, we need to nurture and develop the next generation of AI innovators, researchers, and engineers. They are our true superpower. Bro, but just the other day, we looked at, like, the United States is one of the worst in terms of computer science education. Most other countries, China, mainly, it's mandated in K through 12, and it's, like, it's pretty much, you know, not fully mandatory. I don't know. I had to go to a separate high school to take a computer science class, like a neighboring high school. I had zero coding. I took a web design class, and that was like as much coding as I got in high school. But here I am still, you know. Yeah. Third, we must develop a coherent commercial diplomacy policy for AI, including clarity around how the United States intends to implement export controls and foreign investment rules for the global build-out of AI systems. That will also mean setting out rules of the road for what sorts of chips, AI training data, and other code, some of which is so sensitive that it may need to remain in the United States, can be housed in data centers that countries around the world are racing to build to localize AI information. So this is interesting. So this is more relating to what the OpenAI for countries that we've been looking at. So sensitive that it may need to remain in the United States, can be housed in data centers that countries around the world are racing to. Which this also makes me think that it's still going to be some sort of like U.S. management of the sovereign like data centers that for the OpenAI for countries. Our existing AI lead at the time when nations worldwide are vying for greater access to the technology will make it easier to bring more countries into the this new coalition. Making sure open source models are readily available to developers in those nations will further bolster our advantage. The challenge of who will lead on AI is not just about exporting technology, it's about exporting the values that the technology upholds. And see, actually goes against what I was talking about with Mark Zuckerberg, where he says he wants to localize the values of the AI model itself. And fourth, we need to think creatively about new models for the world to establish norms and developing and deploying AI with a particular focus on safety and ensuring a role for the global south and other nations who have been historically left behind. As with other issues of global importance, that will require us to engage with China and maintain an ongoing dialogue. Yep. This is pretty much directly relating to China, so. I've spoken in the past about creating something akin to the International Atomic Energy Agency for AI, but as just one potential model. One option could knit together the network of AI safety institutes being built in countries such as Japan and Britain and create an investment fund that countries committed to abiding by democratic AI protocols could draw from to expand their domestic compute capacities. This is exactly OpenAI for countries. Yeah. One option could knit together the network of AI safety institutes being built in countries such as Japan to create an investment fund that countries committed to abiding by democratic AI protocols could draw from, expand their domestic computer. Yeah. Another potential model is the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names, ICANN, which manages domain names. But bro, there's been so much drama, assigned names and numbers. There's been a lot of drama around ICANN, so I don't know about that. Which was established by the US government in 1998, less than a decade after the creation of the World Wide Web, to standardize how we navigate the digital world. ICANN is now an independent nonprofit with representatives around the world dedicated to its core mission of maximizing access to the internet in support of an open, connected, democratic global community. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, this is one way, sure. I think the idea though is like getting to some sort of global like standard that is resilient to authoritarian like governments like ICANN or like something like ICANN. While identifying the right decision-making body is important, the bottom line is that democratic AI has a lead over authoritarian AI because our political systems has empowered U.S. companies, entrepreneurs, and academics to research, innovate, and build. This is maybe did not hold up because I don't know about this anymore. Let's be real. Let's be real. With, you know, yeah, I don't know about this right now. We won't be able to have AI that is built to maximize the technology benefits while minimizing the risk unless we work to make sure the democratic vision for AI prevails. We want more democratic world. History tells us our only choice is developing an AI strategy that will help create it, and that the nations and technologists who have a lead have a responsibility to make that choice now. Yeah, to me, this literally seems like the government's choice to build military bases in other countries. OpenAI now wants to do that with AI in data centers. And, you know, as a result, we'll give you access to our AI, we'll create jobs, blah, blah, blah. And in return, you know, we kind of get this influence over the country, over AI, which is kind of the big emerging technology right now for that could be used, you know, in many different fields to like kind of whatever, you know, the crazy shit Sam Altman's claiming. But it's really just influence, I think, because they realize that China is probably catching up with AI. And if we kind of lock in countries now, early on, before China maybe starts courting countries similar to what OpenAI is doing with OpenAI countries, then we probably would like lose by then. Could be wrong, I don't know, but to me it seems like this is a similar system to expanding military bases in America, for America. Okay, let's we got the Fed meeting here in like less than 30 minutes. Let's just actually, I know we said we'd take a look at the Asus Rogue thing, but since we're just on the AI topic, let's look at what Jensen Huang has to say. Here it is.
Yeah, I'm in mid.
NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang, he recently visited China. The Trump administration put a license to restrict export controls for certain chips, the H20 chips, which NVIDIA specifically made for China. They put export controls on there, so NVIDIA took a big loss on that. But we also have seen recently that Huawei has launched a new chip, like 920D or something, but it's kind of to replace the H100s, H20, that H20 style cards that NVIDIA previously was there. But Jensen is very bullish on China still, and you know, as a businessman, I'm sure he kind of has to right now because China is still a large part of their business, or at least was. But he has yeah, I'm just interested to hear his opinion, I guess. I know it's influenced by his business, but still. And NVIDIA also has earnings this month, end of this month, so very anticipated.
Conversation with Bill McDermott and Jensen Huang. Bill, CEO of ServiceNow. Jensen, of course, CEO of NVIDIA. Thanks for having me back here at Knowledge 25. It seems bigger than it was last year and the year before.
And ServiceNow is a big, like, software company, I swear, right? Yeah, American software company in Santa Clara supplies cloud computing platforms for creation of management and automated business workflows. They're like B2B software. They're big though.
Let's jump right in, right? This is a room where it's happening right now.
Also, this guy definitely had his lips done. Just saying.
With AI, you have this $1 billion Now Assist-driven target by the end of next year. Tell me, how much of that is ServiceNow working directly with customers' data? How much of it is Control Tower and your agents able to orchestrate even other
agents are here.
apps?
Sure. John, first and foremost, I want to thank Jensen and the great NVIDIA company, because ServiceNow would not be the company that it is without Jensen and without NVIDIA. And so it's an honor to be with him today. And thank you, Jensen.
Thank you very much. And I would never miss a knowledge conference. Who doesn't love knowledge?
I love it. I love it. And so, John, we
All
are
right, get the glazing out of the way.
Control Tower for transformation in these enterprises.
Yes,
and what's happened is the 20th century software industrial complex is now consolidating onto the ServiceNow platform because it goes east to west across all the functions and north to south up and down the tech stack. And so we integrate with all the LLMs.
This guy talks like Christopher Walken too. That's I couldn't put it on who.
models. We obviously have our own built into our platform thanks to NVIDIA. And so we welcome all data from all data sources in the enterprise so we can be that control tower. The big announcement with NVIDIA today was the reasoning model that we've announced, and we want to be the workflow data fabric that allows all that data to come through ServiceNow, and of course, everything in ServiceNow is powered by NVIDIA.
You're right. Yeah.
Jensen?
Interesting. So I wonder why... Does ServiceNow really need to make their own generative AI model? Like, let's be real.
I'm glad that Bill mentioned this reasoning model in the partnership, because you've been saying for a while, we're not just about the chips. You know, this is platforms, software is included. I want to talk to you a lot about software. Tell me about the role of companies like ServiceNow, who you've been working with for longer than the kind of OpenAI-driven hype around this, in building the sort of value and productivity necessary to realize the vision you've been talking about.
First of all, AI has reinvented the entire computing stack. And agentic AI, these agents, are the most complex of software that the world's ever built. Remember, this is software that can understand almost any content, any PDF file you give it. It can watch video, it can look at websites, go into your database, look at SQL, these agents understand data of all kinds, raw data, unstructured data, structured data. It can reason about solving problems. It can think. And so this software stack is insanely complicated. The reason why we do it is so that we can help the world build new software on top of this new computing platform called GPUs. And so that's the reason why we have to do it. Working with ServiceNow has been incredible.
But
6 years ago,
NVIDIA is far ahead of any competition in the software space in general. CUDA is like... AMD just doesn't have the same infrastructure on software that NVIDIA does. And like they are far ahead of the competition. And it seems like they're getting more into it with the data center stuff because they essentially almost have, I thought it was previously like a full stack data center system, and you could run a data center on like most of NVIDIA's hardware. It's really big for training other AI and robotics and simulations, probably. NVIDIA or ServiceNow. I think NVIDIA has released like a Cosmos, which is like a robotics training. I don't know. I don't remember the name of it. Actually, don't quote me. But yeah, I could see that. Maybe ServiceNow too.
We shared a vision that ServiceNow can very much be the enterprise AI operating system. And on this operating system, we would have all kinds of incredibly smart AIs that help us do work. And it's accessing data from all these different sources, just as Bill was saying earlier. Today, we announced this brand new reasoning AI model. It's called April Nemotron. It's fast. It's...
Oh, yeah. The Nemotron has been out, though. Like, what did he call it?
It's fast. It's smart AI model. It's called April Nemotron. It's fast. It's smart. And it's integrated deeply into the ServiceNow.
They're dropping CUDA support? Oh, interesting. I mean, I imagine it's like older ones. Are they like creating a new... I wonder if they're creating like a new CUDA, or if it's like... I could see CUDA being kind of outdated. It is like C++ or in like C. It's like little like lower level. Maybe bring it up to more modern standards. Been around for a while, so maybe it's also not the right strategy, or to go after now with like AI too. Older ones. Oh, okay, dang. And I imagine that's probably business wise too. They want people to upgrade to their new GPUs, so they're like, okay, sorry, like these are buy our new ones, make some more money, so we can make some more money.
Platform. So really exciting day.
So your communication about the AI vision has been consistent over years, but the facts on the ground keep changing. The goalposts keep moving. You just had to have a huge write-off over these issues of what chip exactly you can sell into China, for example. How much does it affect the ecosystem and NVIDIA's influence over how AI pans out when the rules are changing?
Well, the world's dynamic today. You've just got to stay agile. We took a huge write-off, about $5.5
Agile,
billion.
fuck agile.
China is a very large market. It's probably going to be a $50 billion AI market in a couple of 2-3 years. It would be a tremendous loss not to be
Whoops, sorry.
able to address it as an American company. It's going to bring back revenues. It's going to bring back taxes. It's going to create lots of jobs here in the United States. And of course, we just have to stay agile. Whatever the policies are of the government, whatever is in the best interest of our country, we'll support, and we'll stay agile and keep moving on. The market for AI is just gigantic. Remember, enterprise AI that we're going after is brand spanking new. The $1 billion that Bill is going after for next year, that's the first $1 billion of enterprise AI. There's a $1 trillion opportunity out there to revolutionize the way companies are built and the products that companies make. Not just the way they run, but the products that they make. Every part of it is going to be revolutionized by agentic AI.
All right.
Products that companies make. Revolutionize the way companies are built.
I think there is, we look at a lot of like surveys and like research, like market research, and a lot of the existing AI is more like it's more like machine learning, like legacy AI. It's not generative AI, which is kind of the more newer paradigm. It's more so like machine learning, like predictive analytics, that which is considered artificial intelligence. And so a lot of the existing market research out there, it groups in all AI under like an umbrella. And I think he is right, where like generative AI, like the new like generative AI with like agents and all stuff, like that is very new, very ripe for businesses to come in still to take advantage of that. But also the market is still figuring a lot of things out. So for small model AMD APUs with high unified RAM is the way to go. Can you run that like locally? Like, can you get like that like locally, or is that more for like commercial usage? All right, Fed meeting is live. But we got a few minutes, so we'll just keep that in the background here. Keep that in the background. Local? Okay. I want to build out like a local system eventually. But the framework little like tower PC seems like a good option. I don't know what, or like price wise, what's the best, but okay, let's look at the last topic that I had planned, which was this leak for an Xbox branded handheld gaming PC. Xbox branded. Low power consumption also. Yeah. That's important. Okay. This has been, there was speculation that we've covered on stream about previous Xbox handhelds. Handheld PC space has kind of been heating up a bit with the Steam Deck leading. Asus already has one, Rogue Ally. But a lot of other PC makers, a lot of like Chinese electronic companies have been making these. Is this a real article? These? Yeah, this is definitely real. PC Gamer. I trust them. This place, I have no idea. Like this website's crazy. It's everywhere. But it says the company will launch. Asus is about to announce a new generation of gaming handhelds, and spoiling the announcement are photos from official FCC certification. That's so crazy. It says the company will launch 2 models of the Rogue Ally 2, which will officially named this way in the documentation. As stated, there are 2 models, a black version and a white version. Apparently the black version has a small difference. If you look closely, you'll notice a button that either doesn't appear on the logo or is used for a different purpose on the white model button. That button is the Xbox button. Did they point it out? I mean, these, like, the white one, like, these look like an Xbox. This will be the year of handhelds and mini PCs. Yeah, totally. Good point. Guess like as you know we're getting better and better compute, we could shrink it down. The news comes from 91 Mobiles, which discovered entries for the device in the Indonesian certification office and linked them to a US FCC filing. They found that 2 models are in development. Like the serial numbers. We also have partial specs which reveal that the black edition seems to be a lot higher end system. It features Ryzen Z2 Extreme with 8 cores, TDP of 36 watts. Wow. And it comes with 64 gigabytes of LPDDR5 8553 memory. 64 gigs. Shit, bro. I'm gonna be getting this to run AI models. The white model, on the other hand, is using AMD Aerith Plus, a successor to the Van Gogh Steam Deck, with 4 cores and 20 watt TDP, so much lower end, it seems like. Super fast RAM. So 4 core, interesting. So black model with the Xbox button. Is this the Xbox button right here? This looks black. That is interesting. If Microsoft is going the way of like licensing the Xbox name or something, like maybe you could, like, there's a native Xbox like app natively installed and you could download games like Game Pass or some shit. Like, it's unclear whether Microsoft plans to launch an Xbox OS for gaming handhelds. More likely it'll be a version will offer deeper integration with the Xbox ecosystem, possibly through a dedicated button to launch the Xbox app on Windows. This is, and to me, this seems like almost like how on like smart TVs, it's like you have like a Hulu button and a Netflix button. It just seems like kind of like that. And then they maybe like branded some things around it, like the X and Y buttons. I feel like we would get more. There would be more news if it was like actual Microsoft themselves. You could actually run some small 7B models on decent speed. Yeah, man. Bro, you're gaming. You have ChatGPT. You know, you have Llama open on the on the side. Actually, you probably can't do both at once, but funny. The FCC certification relates to Wi-Fi modules, and these photos were included in reports from Asus and MediaTek. We learned that the Rogue Ally 2 will have a redesigned exterior resembling the gaming controllers. Reminding me of GameCube. I can kind of see that. Like these triggers here. The back features larger grips, though the screen bezels remain as large as those on the original model in the Rogue Ally X. Unfortunately, there's no photo showing the device powered on, so it's unclear if the screen has been updated. Dang, you could kind of see the bezels here. I'm sure it's hard, but... Looks like just another Steam Deck clone. Yeah. I want one. I mean, it seems way more powerful. 64 gigs of RAM is crazy. But, like, what are you even doing with 64 gigs of RAM? I know it's like LP. I don't know. This is probably like a some sort of like mobile type of RAM, but still. The system includes 2 USB Type-C connectors on the top. Side view photos show the thickness of the new handheld. It is a thick boy. Like, from this angle, looks quite bulky, though in practice maybe not as bad. Asus will most likely announce the handheld at Computex 2025. The was spotted at the Korean Radio Research Agency, meaning they've been certified in 3 countries within a few weeks. Interesting. When's Computex? $520, $522. All right, we're gonna cover this on stream here. I don't even like. I have a Steam Deck, but like, it was cool, but I really just don't use it that much. Like if I'm home, I'm gonna use my computer. When I leave, well, like when I'm on like vacation or something, it's like I'm not like, unless I'm flying, I don't really have a use for it. No way, it said 5070 performance, did it? Oh, this is over here, or no. I wonder, let's look up what it is. So this is a Ryzen Z2 Extreme. Let me just put on Computex on here. I don't know. I need a comparison. Oh, here, compare. Bottom of your... Oh, it might have been a different... Oh, I see. Radeon RX 970, G-Review, RTX 5070 performance. This seems like it's different. New AMD CPU. Okay. Still waiting on the Federal Reserve. It's like, I swear it starts at 11, but they said 11:30, so we might have 30 minutes. Oh no, you're good, you're good. Okay, let's look at some other AI news, I guess. This is a Mistral. I've liked Mistral. I've used them for like quite a bit, like maybe like end of last year. And I really do like I do like Le Chat. I like their interface a lot, actually. Is this like the design is a little bit more simpler, less like cluttered compared to like ChatGPT. Claude actually, Anthropic really cleaned up the Claude's interface recently. French fry models. I've never heard it called that. That's funny. But yeah, actually I don't know. Their previous one was good. Although I definitely I don't know how to describe it, but the tone of like Mistral's like equivalent of ChatGPT, like their model they use, was kind of just meh compared to even like 4.0, but primarily Claude, like 3.5 at the time. But I do like that they're open. They're also European, and I think that there isn't really they're like the biggest European AI company, so I think that's important, at least for the EU. But I think just being open, and they're like chill, like they're not like, I don't know, do crazy shit like OpenAI and stuff. Like they're kind of chill. So all right, let's see what they got. So we got claims its newest AI model delivers leading performance for the price. And I actually think that this is almost just as important, because I think with AI models, how they're kind of becoming more of a commodity, it's going to be a race to the bottom. It's going to be a race for the cheapest model for the best performance. Especially when you get to more like agentic stuff or like tool use, because most of that's going to be offloaded to the tools, and the AI really just needs to kind of like be the decision maker, you know, the reasoning. Their uses like the reasoning or thinking. And so I think getting a cost effective model is probably like not a bad choice right now. Microsoft tried to merge them with Bing a while ago, I think. Smaller models definitely. Who merged that? Who's them? Merged who with Bing? But yeah, so I think I don't even think like smaller models, but just like more so I think it could be in the actual like innovation on the compute side, like a kind of like I guess like DeepSeek was like the information seems kind of wonky on like what they actually use behind the scenes, but something like a DeepSeek, you know, cheap model, but you know it's very powerful still. Older Mistral model, interesting. Okay, so French AI startup Mistral is releasing a new AI model, Mistral Medium 3. And the naming, guys, come on. Actually, EU's naming was on point. When we looked at the EU AI investment report, like the naming for this shit was so good. I was like, yes, American AI companies need to take a play out of EU's naming playbook. But now we got Mistral Medium 3? Like, come on. But it's focused on efficiency without compromising performance. Available in Mistral's API, priced at $40 per million input token and $2 per million output token. Mistral Medium 3 performs at or above 90% of Anthropic's costlier Claude 3.7 model on benchmarks across the board, claims Mistral. What the fuck? I think benchmarks are kind of BS at this point. DeepSeek V3 is an escaped American company's model. It's funny. Yeah, I mean, considering what they trained on. It also surpasses recent open model, including Meta's Llama 4 Maverick and Cohere's Command A on popular AI performance evaluations. Let's look at Open Router. They're BS. Here you go. Mistral Medium 3, 40 per 2, 131 context. That's pretty good. I don't know who these Arky. I've never heard of these guys. Like here's Fee 4. I mean, it's literally free. Like it's hard to argue, but it has a much smaller context window. Fee 4 Reasoning Plus. Like this is very cheap, but they do have much smaller context. Like here's Quinn. I mean, it's free. But this one's also free. This one's also free. This goes back to what I was saying with the Chinese AI. It's like they're trying to flood the markets with free AI so that people use their AI. DeepSeek. Like these are all free. Like how are we making money? Like even down here, it's still so cheap. No training required when you could go from cloud to cloud, only fine tuning. That's fair. True. Tokens, robots of data, blah, blah, blah. Mistral Medium 3 can be deployed on any cloud, including self-host environments on 4 GPUs and above. I mean, 4 GPUs is still quite a bit. Like, let's, like... Explain Mistral on a blog post sent to TechCrunch. On pricing, the model beats the cost leaders such as DeepSeek V3, both in API and self-deployed systems. Your data is the currency. Yup. Yeah, I wrote a blog post about that last year. I mean, the evals like look good, but I just don't really, it's kind of just whatever. I just don't know how much I trust evals, especially coming from the company themselves. It's like I don't know. This is really the big one to compare to. 4.0 is like very old now, kind of. Still good, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, they all look good on the benchmarks, but it's like, does that really determine like much else nowadays? Like, we're all just like getting to the tops of the benchmarks, so it's like if everyone just scores 100, like what does that even mean? By the end of the year, you'll see better models that can run locally on a cell phone. I mean, I think that's the goal. I know, like, I don't know, I feel like we need better like distillation techniques. Like we need more like research type of stuff, you know, to like figure out how to shrink the models. Real world use is completely different. Yeah, exactly. But I guess like I feel like real world use is just like a better benchmark. I guess if you value like research and development, then these could like are more valuable, and I think Mistral kind of frames himself as like a research lab. I can't spell Mistral. Enterprise grade agent ready, frontier intelligence, privacy first. It's cool that they say that, but it's only because of the deploying their model. Yeah, I that's why I think Claude, Anthropic is just, it seems like they benchmark more on real world use, and I do like that, like internally, I guess. They all do in some form or another. So like this is just like a marketing. Okay, Mistral, founded in 2023, is a frontier model lab aiming to build a range of AI-powered services, including chatbot platform Le Chat and mobile apps. It's backed by VCs, including General Catalyst, has raised over $1.1 billion euros. To date, Mistral's customers include BNP, AXA, and Miracle. I have no idea who these are. Your companies use their bots and internal agents to manipulate the numbers. Totally. Yeah, I mean, that's why it's just like, I don't know, take it at face value. What is happening? I'm watching the Federal Reserve thing.
Plans, or as they see fit. Many of the Federal Reserve System's regional reserve
There's like an ad playing for the Federal Reserve on the stream.
Also offer in-person and online professional.
Okay, it might start here in a sec though. So, okay. According to Mistral Medium 3 is the best for coding and STEM tasks, and excels at multimodal understanding. Multimodal is important because I think all AIs are going to have to be multimodal in some form of another to get like actual like full human like understanding of things. The company says the clients in financial services, energy, and healthcare have been beta testing the model for use cases like customer service, workflow automation, and analyzing complex data sets. Yeah, I mean, well, this is like already what's being used for like elsewhere. So I mean, it's like, I don't know, the good one. The good ones. In addition, yeah, the good like industries. In addition to Mistral's API, where enterprise customers can work with Mistral to fine-tune it, Mistral's Medium 3 is available on Amazon's SageMaker platform starting Wednesday. It'll soon come in other hosts, including Microsoft's Azure AI Foundry and Google's Vertex AI platforms, the company said. The launch of Mistral Medium 3 falls on the heels of Mistral Small 3.1 in March. Jeez. The naming. I guess like small, medium, large is like actually not that bad of a name. It actually communicates kind of what it does, let's be real. Versus like 03. In its blog post, the company teased the release of a much larger model in the coming weeks. Mistral on Wednesday also launched Le Chat Enterprise, a corporate-focused chatbot service that offers tools like an AI agent builder and integrates Mistral's models with third-party services like Gmail, Google Drive, and SharePoint. OpenAI's kind of already had that. They've had their GPT, which is kind of like their agent builder. I don't know. They're kind of catching up, I guess. Le Chat Enterprise rolled out in private preview earlier this year, but today marks a general availability. Le Chat's Enterprise will soon support MCP. That's good. Model Context Protocol. Anthropic standard for connecting AI assistants to the systems and software where data resides. It's crazy how MCP like kind of won, and like at least for now, for tool use. Other major AI providers, including Google and OpenAI, announced that they would adopt MCP earlier this year. Interesting. Cool. We're seeing progress. It's definitely incremental. Like, I feel like it's just going to be very incremental until we're kind of just like there. You know, it's going to be like little, but when you compare like January of 2025 to December 2025, it will be a big gap, but it's just like it'll be incremental like up until we get to the point, you know. Until you start to see more digital entities that are somewhat free and autonomous AI. Yeah, man, it's going to be literally like fucking Cyberpunk here. Arasaka. Like, literally. So, I don't know. It's kind of scary, but it's also, like, cool. Because it's, like, sci-fi, you know? It's, like, cyberpunk-y. Just, like... a lot of my cool factor is, like, for technologies, like, how sci-fi is it? So... okay, we're gonna, that's exactly what they're doing with robotics. Totally. We're just gonna kind of hang until the Fed meeting starts. Interest rates. It is very pivotal. The interest rates are, at least America. This is American government. I think, the more you learn, the fear goes away. I don't know. I feel like it's the opposite, kind of. It's more so like the more I learn, the like scarier it is. That's more so like, you know, that's how I feel. I guess, I don't know. I've read a lot of reports. I read a lot of reports and shit. Yeah, I don't know.
Promoting maximum employment and price stability. This occurs mainly.
What is this new? Like, this like commercials? I've never seen this.
Which can significantly impact financial conditions, including economic productivity and even spending and investment decisions.
But yeah, interest rates are very politicized right now. Trump wanted to fire the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell. Legally, he can't, and Jerome Powell said that he would fight it legally if he did. But it seems like, but Trump did come out and say that, like, I'm not going to fire him, and I think a lot of his aides kind of pressured him to say that because the markets were very bearish, knowing, like, potentially thinking that the Federal Reserve Chair could be fired, and then someone could come in and just fuck with interest rates, and which would just fuck the entire economy over, at least the American economy. Likely, they'd have world effects, but yeah. But with tariff uncertainty, trade uncertainty in general, businesses wanting more concrete policies so that they could better invest in the future, unemployment kind of actually staying the same, surprisingly, but inflation also kind of, you know, I don't know, seesawing a bit. it's kind of like very unknown. Actually, let's look at Fed Reserve. Let's check the prediction markets. There's a whole new world in a digital realm most are just learning about. Different AI systems and AI agents are forming their own economy. Gonna get worse before it gets better. Yeah, I think we got a little bit of time for that, like, where something like that really happens. It's more like hobby, I feel like, now. Oh, this is interesting. This is alive. Here we go. This is what I wanted. Okay. This is what this is the probability for the interest rates going up. So, target rate probability for 7 May 2025 Fed meeting. That's today. The current rate is 425 to 450. 97% consensus that it's going to stay the same. 2% that it's going to go down. So, seems like it's going to stay the same, which, yeah. They trade in compute and other things that humans wouldn't think of. I mean, yeah, but like, what? I mean, cool. I gotta, like, where? Like, what do you know? I don't disagree that that's eventually what happened, but I don't really know where that's happening exists. Like, that's like the metaverse shit, you know, like. And let's actually look at the next Fed meeting, the digital realm. That, I mean, like, yeah, that's like. They're not like, there's not an economy yet though for like agent to agent interaction. If so, it's internal, you know, still. It's like you programming it to talk to another agent or something. Bro, 33% chance that it goes down to a whole 100 basis points, like 1%? No way they would drop it that much that quick. It's happening now, bro. I mean, send me share something then. I'd love to look into that on stream. It's right up my alley. Cool. All right, I'm gonna take a break real quick. I need to use the restroom before we lock in for the Fed meeting. So have fun listening to some Fed elevator music. I'll be right back. All right, 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Let's see what else. What else is going on? Can we do like picture in picture? All right. This will be here. We'll swap over when it's here. Oh yeah, I want to look at this Claude system prompt, which is it's 20. But it says its system prompt is over 24K tokens with tools, which is crazy how large the system prompt is. Wait, where did it go? Oh. The assistant's response is bad. Is based on the content returned by the web search driver. Oh, okay. Web search is like tool use. Drive search, Google search. Oh, this is crazy. We have artifact types. It's like, do not write. This is like Tailwind CSS or something. That's interesting. Reading files, manipulating CSVs, updating versus rewriting artifacts. Critical. Always respect copyright by never reproducing large 20+ word chunks of content from web search results to ensure legal compliance and avoid harming copyright holders. That's crazy that they actually specifically say that in there. Use the best tools for the query. Query complexity. They literally added like if else. This is so interesting, actually, looking at how they communicate. If info about the query changes over years or is fairly static, never search category. Do not use tools or offer. Oh wait, Claude determines the complexity of each query and adapt. I can't see it now. There we go. I'm still kind of blocking, but if info about the query changes, yeah. Else if info changes annually or slower rates, ranking, statistics, daily trends, do not search but offer category, answer directly without any tool calls but offer tool uses. Interesting, because it likely has this in its memory. Else if info changes daily, hourly, weekly, monthly, weather, stock price, sports scores, news, single search query. Or research category, 2 to 20 tool calls if more complex querying requires multiple sources for tools. That's so crazy that it's like they talk to it like a programming. All detailed category descriptions. Never search category. If a query is in this never search category, always answer directly without searching or using any tools. Huh. That's crazy. Interesting. Okay, I actually want to I'm gonna take a new thumbnail real quick. No, it's fine. I thought I had some more commentary on this.
Begin to see unemployment rates that are 4.5 or 4.6%.
We'll watch this here.
There's a greater debate about cutting rates to respond to the downside risks to the economy versus the elevated inflation, which certainly is a concern for them. You know, if inflation expectations pick up, I think that could be pushed out further into the future, but I would view the risks as them cutting a bit earlier. Certainly if we get downside realizations on the economy.
This guy gets sunburn or is lighting horrible?
Thank you. Matt Lesedi at Deutsche Bank. 1 Cup, December. You can drive a truck through the range of estimates on Wall Street right now.
Yes.
Forget market pricing.
Accurate.
That's just averaging out a wide range, an incredibly wide range of outcomes. I've got Morgan Stanley and Mike Gapin at 0 for 2025, and on the other side, Andrew Honhorst at Citi at 125 for 2025. That's a very different view of the world.
125 basis points, so 1.25%.
Our data rolls over.
Or is that how much it's going down?
Be the whites of the eyes that the Fed will respond to.
That's 5 Fed meetings away. Think of the drama we could have.
Could be a lot of drama. Do you want some good news? Take a look at the market screen. Equities roll over, down 0.25% on the S&P. Look what happened to bonds. Bonds actually rallied. Bob Michael, music to your ears.
That's crazy.
Bonds are doing what bonds are meant to do. Do you take some comfort in this move?
Yeah, and that's what we're hearing from our clients. They felt that they were underallocated to fixed income. They've been coming into the markets. They're
underallocated in fixed income.
Institutions buying taxables, foreign official institutions buying treasuries, and actually individual investors coming into the municipal bond market.
Yeah, I own a shit ton of bonds.
A lot of flow across bond markets.
This is
Ebo laddering.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has been looking at very closely. He talked extensively about this today. He's even looking at the auctions and the dealer take-up of potential auctions. I'm just wondering what would get you nervous, and how much can the Fed respond with bond buying? How much their balance sheet potentially is going to be on the table later this year, especially as they become politically enmeshed in the fiscal aspects?
I'd get worried if both ends of the Fed's mandate got pulled to extreme levels. So core personal consumption expenditures up over 4% and unemployment up close to 5%, and they still feel they can't do anything. Then I would start to worry.
Dr. Clarida, what would you do with the dots right now?
Well,
use invisible ink?
Today there are no dots. You know, I think at the last press conference, Chair Powell said, I'm paraphrasing, said something along the lines of, we had to write down something.
Exactly.
I mean, you know, as a student of the dots and then as a dot writer for 4 years, I've observed under all Fed chairs, Bernanke, Yellen, and Powell, since the dots, there's some meetings when the dots tell the story they want to tell and then they embrace them. There are other meetings when the dots, you got to write something,
And I think the dots are where they, like, each head of the reserve, like, puts their estimate or, like, where they think rates should be or something.
The reaction function at the moment at the Federal Reserve, which is why I want to lean on you just a little bit more to really get a specific from you. If today we had an SEP and they had to dial up expectations for inflation again and dial down expectations for growth, would you leave your dot unchanged or not? Because that goes some way to describing what they would do up against a stagflationary shock. What would you do?
I think I'd probably leave it unchanged, with the idea being the probability on both bad outcomes has gone up and they move in different directions. So I'd leave them unchanged.
What would be your one question right now to the Fed? If you were going to ask anything,
trying to find the
Fed
dots,
Chair
what they're
Powell
talking
on the
about.
spot in a way that you thought he would actually answer.
Well, no, that makes it more difficult because Chair Powell's quite good at answering it the way he wants. No, it's what I said several moments ago. Chair Powell, you've emphasized that if there's a weakening in the labor market, that the committee would adjust. Vice Chair, Governor Waller has said that. Is that the case? Or with a 4% PCE inflation rate, can you be cutting rates?
How collaborative was it?
Yeah.
When the chairman had to go into a news conference like today, and he'd offered his personal views of the Economic Club of Chicago, was it easy for him to get the rest of the committee to get behind him so he could put his own language in the statement?
Well, Jay Powell's very, very collaborative, and he had bilateral discussions with every member of the committee. We did distinguish between the FOMC statement, which is a committee document, and the press conference. The press conference, he reads
like a minute
statement
before it starts.
That's Jay Powell
Yeah, we're
speaking as Jay Powell.
watching this here, see what
we mentioned
the
before,
pros have to say.
The opening statement, or even the press conference, you want to count the times he says we in the committee versus I, and sometimes that balance goes up and down.
That's an important distinction. But before we go into this news conference, Chairman Powell will walk out in about a minute's time. You got a quick question for Mike McKee. What do you want to know?
Yeah, I'd ask him about Sell America. How do they define it? What are they watching to see if it actually happens?
Something
Sell America?
investors are thinking about going into this one.
And one that he definitely will not answer. But this is really going to be one of the key questions to really gauge how much the bond market continues to be some sort of counterbalance to risk in markets.
At least bonds are rallying.
All right, let's go to the official stream. Seems like Sell America is like devaluing the US dollar and like selling like bonds or something. This was April 11th. But the Trump administration does want to devalue the dollar. I think that's the entire idea of like behind all these tariffs and stuff. All right, here we go. We're live. We're live. So right now it seems like they're staying the same interest rates. Here's the prediction real quick. This is the prediction. It seems like it's staying the same. This is what we're currently at 425 to 450. That's what it actually went up 2% a little bit. It was 97% when we looked at it like maybe 20 minutes ago. So let's see how did this change? Oh, this changed too. Oh no, actually we clicked on December earlier. Okay, we're out.
Good afternoon. My colleagues and I remain squarely focused on achieving our dual mandate goals of maximum employment and stable prices for the benefit of the American people. Despite heightened uncertainty, the economy is still in a solid position. The unemployment rate remains low, and the labor market is at or near maximum employment. Inflation has come down a great deal, but has been running somewhat above our 2% longer-run objective. In support of our goals, today the Federal Open Market Committee decided to leave our policy interest rate unchanged.
All right.
The risks of higher unemployment and higher inflation appear to have risen, and we believe that the current stance of monetary policy leaves us well positioned to respond in a timely way to potential economic developments. I will have more to say about monetary policy after briefly reviewing economic developments. Pardon me. Following growth of 2.5% last year, GDP was reported to have edged down in the first quarter, reflecting swings in net exports that were likely driven by businesses bringing in imports ahead of potential tariffs. This unusual swing complicated GDP measurement last quarter. Private domestic final purchases, or PDFP, which excludes net exports, inventory investment, and government spending, grew at a solid 3% rate in the first quarter, the same as last year's pace. Within PDFP, growth of consumer spending moderated, while investment in equipment and intangibles rebounded from weakness in the fourth quarter. Surveys of households and businesses, however, report a sharp decline in sentiment and elevated uncertainty about the economic outlook, largely reflecting trade policy concerns.
But he said last meeting that doesn't really matter, opinion.
Seen how these developments might affect future spending and investment.
Because people act differently than how they feel sometimes.
Conditions have remained solid. Payroll job gains averaged 155,000 per month over the past 3 months. The unemployment rate at 4.2% remains low and has stayed in a narrow range for the past year. Wage growth has continued to moderate while still outpacing inflation. Overall, a wide set of indicators suggest that conditions in the labor market are broadly in balance and consistent with maximum employment.
He said that last time too.
The labor market is not a source of significant inflationary pressures. Inflation has eased significantly from its highs in mid-2022, but remains somewhat elevated relative to our 2% longer-run goal. Total PCE prices rose 2.3% over the 12 months ending in March. Excluding the volatile food and energy categories, core PCE prices rose 2.6%. Near-term measures of inflation expectations have moved up, as reflected in both market and survey-based measures. Survey respondents, including consumers, businesses, and professional forecasters, point to tariffs as the driving factor.
He had to put that in there.
Beyond the next year or so, however, most measures of longer-term expectations remain consistent with our 2% inflation goal. Our monetary policy actions are guided by our dual mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people. At today's meeting, the committee decided to maintain the target range for the federal funds rate at 4.25% to 4.5% and to continue reducing the size of the balance sheet. The new administration is in the process of implementing substantial policy changes in 4 distinct areas: trade, immigration, fiscal policy, and regulation. The tariff increases announced so far have been significantly larger than anticipated. All of these policies are still evolving, however, and their effects on the economy remain highly uncertain. As economic conditions evolve, we'll continue to determine the appropriate stance of monetary policy based on the incoming data, the outlook, and the balance of risks. If the large increases in tariffs that have been announced are sustained, they're likely to generate a rise in inflation, a slowdown in economic growth, and an increase in unemployment. The effects on inflation could be short-lived, reflecting a one-time shift in the price level. It is also possible that the inflationary effects could instead be more persistent.
In other words, he doesn't know.
Some will depend on the size of the tariff effects, on how long it takes for them to pass through fully into prices, and ultimately on keeping longer-term inflation expectations well anchored. Our obligation is to keep longer-term inflation expectations well anchored and to prevent a one-time increase in the price level from becoming an ongoing inflation problem. As we act to meet that obligation, we'll balance our maximum employment and price stability mandates, keeping in mind that without price stability, we cannot achieve the long periods of strong labor market conditions that benefit all Americans. We may find ourselves in the challenging scenario in which our dual mandate goals are in tension. If that were to occur, we would consider how far the economy is from each goal and the potentially different time horizons over which those respective gaps would be anticipated to close. For the time being, we're well positioned to wait for greater clarity before considering any adjustments to our policy stance. At this meeting, the committee continued its discussions as part of our 5-year review of our monetary policy framework. We focused on inflation dynamics and the implications for our monetary policy strategy. Our review includes outreach and public events involving a wide range of parties, including Fed Listens events around the country and a research conference next week. Throughout this process, we're open to new ideas and critical feedback, and we will take on board lessons of the last 5 years in determining our findings. We intend to wrap up the review by late summer.
Interesting.
The Fed has been assigned 2 goals for monetary policy: maximum employment and stable prices. We remain committed to supporting maximum employment, bringing inflation sustainably to our 2% goal, and keeping longer-term inflation expectations well anchored. Our success in delivering on these goals matters to all Americans. We understand that our actions affect communities, families, and businesses across the country. Everything we do is in service to our public mission. We at the Fed will do everything we can to achieve our maximum employment and price stability goals. Thank you. I look forward to your questions.
Steve Leisman, CNBC. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for taking my question. A lot has happened.
We just watched this guy.
Since the last meeting. There's been tariffs put on, tariffs taken off, and meanwhile, there's a bill advancing in Congress. And I just wonder if I could press you on the last part of your statement. Are you any closer now to deciding which side of the mandate is going to need urgent care first?
Well, as we noted in our statement, post-meeting statement, we've judged that the risks to higher employment and higher inflation have both risen. And this, by the way, of course, is compared to March. So that's what we can say. I don't think we can say, which way this will shake out. I think there's a great deal of uncertainty about, for example, where tariff policies are going to settle out. And also, when they do settle out, what will be the implications for the economy, for growth, and for employment? I think it's too early to know that. So, ultimately, we think our policy rate is in a good place to stay as we await further clarity on tariffs and ultimately their implications for the economy.
Hearing you describe what you're looking for in terms of being able to make a decision, it sounded like that's a long-term process before you sound like you're going to be comfortable, or the committee would be comfortable to act on what the data is telling you.
I don't think we know. I think if you look where we are today, we have an economy that, if you look through, the sort of distortions in Q1 GDP, you've still got an economy that looks like it's growing at a solid pace. The labor market appears to be solid. Inflation is running just a bit above 2%. So it's an economy that's been resilient and is in good shape. And our policy is sort of modestly or moderately restrictive. It's 100 basis points less restrictive than it was last fall. And so we think that leaves us in a good place to wait and see. We don't think we need to be in a hurry. We think we can be patient.
Yeah, it's fair.
We want to be watching the data.
Like, things have been fine, relatively speaking.
But we do think we're in a good position where we are to let things evolve and become clearer in terms of what should be the monetary policy response.
Nick.
Nick Morales of the Wall Street Journal. Chair Powell, there's naturally a lot of PTSD around
2021 and supply shocks. But there are some who argue that the current situation has notable differences. Energy costs are down, housing imbalances look nothing like they did 4 years ago. Labor demand appears to be gradually cooling with wage growth running below 4%. What do you see right now that could nourish higher inflation beyond a rise in goods prices this year?
I think the underlying
Tariffs.
inflation picture is good. It's what you see, which is inflation now running a bit above 2%. And we've had basically decent readings in housing services and non-housing services, which is a big part of it. So that part, I think, is moving along well. But there's just so much that we don't know. I think, and we're in a good position to wait and see, is the thing. We don't have to be in a hurry. The economy has been resilient and is doing fairly well. Our policy is well positioned. The costs of waiting to see further are fairly low, we think. So that's what we're doing. And, you know, we'll see. The administration is entering into negotiations with many countries over tariffs. We'll know more with each week and month that goes by about where tariffs are going to land, and we'll know what the effects will be when we start to see those things. So we think we'll be learning. I can't tell you how long it will take, but for now it does seem like it's a fairly clear decision for us to wait and see and watch.
So when you say that you don't need to be in a hurry, does that mean that could the outlook change in such a way that a change in your stance could be warranted as soon as your next meeting?
You know, as I said,
He doesn't want to say, though. He can't say that.
We are comfortable with our policy stance. We think we're in the right place.
18 June's next meeting.
Evolve. We don't feel like we need to be in a hurry. We feel like it's appropriate to be patient. And you know, when things develop, of course, we have a record of we can move quickly when that's appropriate. But we think right now the appropriate thing to do is to wait and see how things evolve. There's so much uncertainty. If you talk to businesses or market participants or forecasters, everyone is just waiting to see how developments play out.
He's not wrong with that.
We'll be able to make a better assessment.
And that's like with
what the appropriate path for monetary policy is. So we're not in that place.
Businesses thinking the future being unpredictable. That's what he's talking about.
Frame on that.
Janelle Marte with Bloomberg. So many economists have been pricing in higher odds of a recession, and several are noting that it is more difficult for the Fed to cut rates preemptively given the higher risks for higher inflation. So given the outlook, do you still see a path for a soft landing, and what does that look like?
Well, let me say, I mean, so let's look back and see where we are. So to go through 2024 up to the day, we've had you know, unemployment in the low 4s for more than a year. We've had inflation coming down now in the mid to low 2s. We've had an economy growing at 2.5%. So that is the economy as we see it now. What looks likely, given the scope and scale of the tariffs, is that we will see certainly the risks to higher inflation, higher unemployment have increased. And if that's what we do see, if the tariffs are ultimately put in place at those levels, which we don't know, then we won't see further progress toward our goals. But we might see a delay in that. I think in our thinking, we would never do anything but keep achieving those goals. But we would, at least for the next, let's say, year, we would not be making progress toward those goals. Again, if that's the way the tariffs shake out. The thing is, we don't know that. There's so much uncertainty about the scale, scope, timing, and persistence of the tariffs. So that's that. In terms of preemption, you know, I think
he just has to bring up tariffs, the jab at Trump.
Cuts as preemptive. I wouldn't say that what we did last fall was at all preemptive. If anything, it was a little late. But 2019, we did cut 3 times. But the situation was you had a weakening economy and you had inflation at 1.6%. So that's a situation where you can move preemptively. Now we have inflation running above target. It has been above target for 4 years. It's not so far above target now. And we have an expectation, conditional on what happens, that we'll see upward pressure on inflation. If you look at where forecasters are, they're all forecasting an increase in inflation. So it makes it, and then we've also got, forecasts of weakening in the economy, and some have recession forecasts. We don't publish a forecast about that.
That's probably the wait and see
forecast that assesses how likely a recession is, but
because they don't want to lower them too preemptively, like you keep saying. Because if inflation does go up and then they lower them, like that's just going to exacerbate the inflation and the problems that already exist. Yeah, but I guess it makes sense that they're waiting and seeing.
Sophie Smith with the New York Times. How much weakness does the committee need to see, though, in the labor market and the economy more broadly to lower interest rates again? Is it about a certain increase in the unemployment rate over a period of time, or perhaps a certain number of negative monthly job reports? I mean, how are you making that assessment?
So first of all, we don't see that yet, right? We have 4.2% unemployment, good participation, wages behaving very well. Participation, I mentioned, at a good level. So, with the labor market, we would look at the totality of the data. We'd look at the level of the unemployment rate. We'd look at the speed with which it's changing. We would look at the whole huge array of labor market data to get a sense of whether conditions are really deteriorating or not. And at the same time, we'd be looking at the other side of the mandate. We could be in a position of having to balance those two things, which is, of course, a difficult balancing judgment that we'd have to make.
On that point about balancing, I mean, you've mentioned that the committee would consider how far the economy is from each goal and the time it would take to kind of get back to that point. But what does that mean in practice? I mean, how much of that assessment will be rooted in a forecast versus data dependence?
It would be a combination of the two. I mean, let's just say this
like every answer is the cop out.
Complicated and challenging judgment that we would have to make. Yeah, we're not in this situation, but the situation is if the two goals are in tension. So let's say that unemployment is moving up in an uncomfortable way, and so is inflation. That's not the situation we're in, hypothetically, but we would look at how far they are from the goals, how far they're expected to be from the goals, what's the expected time to get back to their goals. We'd look at all those things and make a difficult judgment, and that's in our framework. It's always been in our thinking. We haven't faced that question in a very long time. So again, difficult judgment to make, and not one that we face today, and we may never face it, but we have to be keeping it in our thinking now.
Thank you. Edward Lawrence with Fox Business. So we had the CPI report that came out that showed month over month the first decrease in inflation in about 3 years. The jobs report, you said, solid, that we saw. At the same time, we have those new tariffs that we're living under. So given this, should the Federal Reserve be cutting rates at all this year?
It's going to depend. I think you have to just take a step back and realize this is why we are where we are. Is we're going to need to see how this evolves. There are cases in which it would be appropriate for us to cut rates this year. There are cases in which it wouldn't, and we just don't know until we know more about how this is going to settle out and what the economic implications are for employment, for inflation. I couldn't confidently say that I know what the appropriate path will be.
It's like every meeting. Right.
So then how does President Trump calling on you personally, as well as the Federal Reserve, to make rate cuts affect your decision today and affect your job difficulty?
Doesn't affect doing our job at all. So we're always going to do the same thing.
That's the right answer. That's the right answer.
We use our tools to foster maximum employment and price stability for the benefit of the American people. We're always going to consider only the economic data, the outlook, the balance of risks.
He's like, I don't give a fuck what he says.
So it really doesn't affect either our job or the way we do it.
Hi, Howard Schneider with Reuters, and thanks for the time. I'm wondering, given the complexity about the first quarter GDP and what lies ahead, I'm just wondering what your intuition tells you about the underlying direction of the economy right now.
Everyone asks the same question in just different words.
Slowing. If so, do you have any sense of by how much, to what degree the slowdown may be? What does your gut tell you about how things are evolving out there?
My gut tells me that uncertainty about the path of the economy is extremely elevated.
Yep.
The downside risks have
Everyone
increased.
laughs.
The risk is, as we pointed out in our statement, the risks the risks of higher unemployment and higher inflation have risen, but they haven't materialized yet. They're really not in the data yet.
Interesting.
So that tells me more than by intuition, because I think it's obvious actually that the right thing for us to do is we're in a good place. Our policy's in a very good place, and the right thing to do is await further clarity. And there's usually things clarify and the appropriate direction becomes clear. That's what usually happens. Right now, it's very hard to say what that would be. In the meantime, the economy is doing fine. Our policy isn't, it's not highly restrictive. It's somewhat restrictive. It's 100 basis points less restrictive than it was in, last summer.
Said that already,
so we think it's in a good place, and we think the appropriate thing is for us to wait and see and get more clarity about the direction of the economy.
Well, let me press you on this idea of the economy being fine right now, because reading the Beige Book very closely the last time around, there was a lot of negative stuff, negative sentiment that was in there. And I know that everybody's looking at soft data right now. You mentioned it yourself that the sentiment's sour. But the Beige Book was talking about, the beginnings of layoffs in some industries, prices rising in some places, and an awful lot of investment decisions being pushed to the sideline.
Yeah, that's the uncertainty,
point
though.
to a slowdown?
It's more the
It may
uncertainty.
well. It just hasn't shown up yet, and we all look at all these sentiment and read many individual comments just to get a better feel. And businesses and households very broadly are concerned and postponing economic decisions of various kinds. And yes, if that continues and nothing happens to sort of alleviate those concerns, then you would expect that to begin to show up in economic data. It wouldn't maybe show up overnight, but it would show up over weeks and months. And that may be what happens, but it hadn't happened yet. And also there are things that can happen that will change that narrative. I mean, they haven't happened, but it's possible to imagine things that, but in the meantime, yes, we're watching it extremely carefully like everyone is, but don't see really much evidence of it in actual economic data yet. And by the way, consumers keep spending, credit card spending. It's, it's still a healthy economy, albeit one that is shrouded in some very downbeat sentiment on the part of people and businesses.
Yeah.
Michael McKee from Bloomberg Radio and Television. The Fed's been criticized recently by a former governor for what he calls mission creep. You take on more problems, use more tools, and then end up building tools to deal with the fallout of those tools, which then makes it a given that you will act more aggressively in the future.
That's interesting.
Is that a fair critique, and is that something you would be looking at in your framework review?
Sorry, say the critique again.
That the Fed has been involved in mission creep, gets involved in using too many new tools to deal with problems and to go too far. Is that something that...
He's like, huh?
The critique was based around the fact that you did QE and QE and QE.
Quantitative easing.
And went beyond the narrow confines of your mandate.
Well, I mean, there are a couple. That's not really beyond the confines of our mandate. I would say this: we did things. Essentially, we're on an emergency footing for a couple of years in the pandemic, and it's very fair and very welcome for people to look back over what we did and say, "Hey, you could have done this better and different."
And
one thing we hear a lot is we could
big of him to take the critique well.
Better. We did think we were explaining it in real time. I completely accept the thought that we could have explained it better. There's a lot of thinking that we went on too long with QE. I can tell you that the reason we did was we were concerned that we didn't want a sharp tightening in financial conditions at a time when we thought the economy was still vulnerable. And so we did hold on for a long time to QE, and we of course tapered and everything. And then we immediately went into QT, and we're down a couple of trillion. But I get we certainly, with the benefit of hindsight, could have tapered earlier or faster. That's absolutely right. But this is all very welcome. We knew doing this in real time that we weren't going to get it perfect, and those kind of after action kind of looks are essential. And we're doing the same thing in our review. So on some issues.
The other part of that critique is that you've taken on topics that are outside of the mandate, such as climate change and trying to ensure that certain groups are benefited by your economic policies in terms of employment, et cetera.
So, okay, on climate, you've heard me say over and over again.
This is
that
important
we will not
because
be climate policymakers.
Yeah.
And
I feel like
that
Trump could
our
use this
role
against them.
on climate is a very, very narrow one. And I think that's what we've done. We've done really very little on climate. You can say that little bit that we've done was too much, but I wouldn't want to give any impression that we've taken climate and it's something that we're spending a lot of time and energy on. We're not. We have very, very narrow things. We did one guidance for the banks, and then we did a one-time stress analysis, climate stress analysis, and that's it. And we dropped out of the network of greening the financial system. So we didn't do much on climate, but I do think, and I've said this publicly several times, I think it's a real danger for us to try to take on a mandate like that, which is very narrow application to our work. And the risk is if you go for things that are really not in your mandate, then why are you independent? And I think that's a very fair question. I do think we've done a whole lot less on climate than some people seem to think we did. Anyway, that's what I think.
Should you have taken on the question of bringing unemployment rates down for specific categories?
We didn't do that. What we said was that we never targeted any unemployment rate for individual racial or demographic groups. What we said was that maximum employment was a broad and inclusive goal. And I think what we meant by that was we're going to consider the totality of the
This is
country
definitely relating to
as
Trump,
we
likely.
look at our maximum
DEI
employment
shit or
goal.
something.
Of course, we were never going to target any individual group with that, but I think some people, wanted to hear it that way. But that's
Yeah.
not at all what we meant.
Interesting.
But
I don't know the context of this, but
that's just not a correct reading of our.
I also think it's important for them. Powell's seem to be taking a good mindset where it is important for the Fed to look at the past to see how they handle certain situations, because in the future, if they encounter a similar situation, it's in their best interest to have a root cause analysis of something on whether or not it was good or bad, so that when they encounter the situation in the future again, they know how to correctly respond to the situation. So I think him opening up for critique I think it's cool. It's good. They should be like
For
that.
Main Street, what is the breaking point? What would have to happen to prompt a rate cut specifically?
Bro, they keep asking the same questions in different ways, bro. He's not going to say when or how they're going to cut the rates specifically.
Big economic effects. We see sentiment, their concerns that higher prices may be coming or things like that. So they're worried now about inflation. They're worried about a shock from the tariffs, but they really haven't. That shock hasn't hit yet. Okay, so we're going to be looking at the not just the sentiment data, but also the real economic data as we assess what it is we should do. And remember, there will be two effects. One of them would be weakening economic activity, which translates into higher unemployment, and the other would be potentially higher inflation. Again, to say it again, the timing, the scope, the scale, and the persistence of those effects are very, very uncertain. So it's not at all clear what the appropriate response for monetary policy is at this time. And and by the way, our policy is in a good place, so we think we can wait and move when it is clear what the right thing to do is. Really not at all clear what it is we should do. So people are feeling stress and concern, but unemployment hasn't gone up. Job creation is fine. Wages are in good shape. People are not people are not getting laid off at high levels. Initial claims for unemployment are not increasing, in any kind of impressive way. So the economy itself is still, in solid shape.
Just a quick follow-up. President Trump now says he does not plan to remove you as chair. When you heard that, what did you think?
I don't have anything more for you on that. I've pretty much covered that.
Yeah, it's like
Thank you.
He's not commenting at all. Like, good for him though. He shouldn't.
Hi.
Shouldn't have
thank
to
you,
though either.
Chris Rugaber, Associated Press. Well, I just wanted to follow up. Earlier, it sounded like you said it was unclear how the Fed, what kind of interest rate decisions you will make later this year. So does that, in March, there was guidance that 2 cuts might happen. 2 cuts were penciled in for this year. Is that now, that guidance from the last press conference, has that been overtaken by events at this point?
We don't do a summary of economic projections at every meeting, as you know. We do it every other meeting, and so this was the meeting when we didn't do it. And we don't also kind of poll people, so I really wouldn't want to try to make a specific projection for where we are relative to that. We will, in 6 weeks, we had the June meeting, and you'll have another SEP. I'm not going to hazard a guess here today as to what it would be. Again, what I would say is that we think our policy rate.
He's like, let me get the script.
Is well positioned to respond in a timely way to potential developments.
Yeah.
That's where we are, and that, depending on the way things play out, that could include rate cuts. It could include us holding where we are. We just are going to need to see, how things play out before we make those decisions.
Great, and just to follow up on that, I mean, when you address the issue of how the Fed would handle both rising unemployment and rising inflation, how are you thinking about the fact that addressing one could exacerbate the other? So a rate cut to reduce unemployment could worsen inflation and vice versa. How do you handle those challenges?
You just captured this is the issue with the 2 goals being in tension. It's a very challenging question. Now, there can be a case in which one goal is very far, one variable is very, very far from its goal, much farther than the other, and if so, you concentrate on that one. And frankly, that was the case. Well, it wasn't a case where they were really in tension, but if you go back to 2022, it was very clear that we needed to focus on inflation. The labor market was also super tight, so it wasn't really a trade-off. I think what our framework document says. It says we'll look at how far each variable is from its goal, and also we'll factor in the time it would take to get there. So, that's going to be potentially a very difficult judgment, but the data could break in a way that it's not. I just don't think we know that. The data could easily favor one or the other, and right now there's no need to make a choice, and no real basis for doing so.
Victoria. Hi, Victoria Guido with Politico. I wanted to ask, Congress is currently debating spending cuts alongside extending the tax cuts. And I know you've talked many times about how the path of the debt is unsustainable, but given that we're also talking right now about the economy slowing, potentially even recession, I was just wondering, is there a danger that spending cuts now could slow growth a lot more?
We don't give Congress fiscal advice.
Yeah.
They're going to do. We take what they do as a given, and we put it in
Fair.
our models and in our assessment of the economy. So I wouldn't want to, speculate on that. I mean, I think we do know that the debt is on an unsustainable level, on an unsustainable path.
Debt, not dead.
Not at an unsustainable level, but an unsustainable path. And it's on Congress to figure out how to get us back on a sustainable path. And
he's like, I'm not a politician, bro. I mean, he is.
Do you think
that
they should take macroeconomic conditions into account as they look at this?
I think they don't need my advice and our advice on how to do fiscal policy any more than we need their advice on monetary policy.
Andrew.
Yeah, it's like.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Andrew Ackerman with the Washington Post. In your Jackson Hole comments last year, you said you would not welcome further cooling in labor market conditions. The unemployment rate then was 4.2%, which is what it is now. Many forecasters now predict a higher jobless rate. How has your tolerance for weakening labor market conditions changed compared to a year ago?
So it was quite a different situation. What was happening last year is that over the space of 6, 8, 7 months, the unemployment rate went up by almost a full percentage point. And it was click, 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 click each month. And everywhere people were talking about downside risks to the labor market. At the same time, payroll job numbers were getting softer and softer. So there was a really obvious concern about downside risk to the labor market. And so at Jackson Hole and then in September, we wanted to address that forthrightly. We wanted to show that we were there for we'd been there for inflation for a couple of years, and we wanted to show also that we're there for the labor market. And it was important that we send that signal. Fortunately, since then, the labor market has really, and the unemployment rate have really been moving sideways at a level that is, well in the range of mainstream estimates of maximum employment. So that concern has gotten a lot less. So, you're at 4.2% unemployment. I think we were in a very different situation. Now we have a situation where, the risks to higher inflation and higher unemployment have both gone up, as we noted in our statement, and we've got to monitor both of those. We actually have a potential situation where there may be a trade-off or tension between the two, potentially. We don't have it yet, and we may not have it, but that's what we have, and that's why I think it's a very different situation.
I guess I want to follow up by asking how much of a rise in the jobless rate you could tolerate.
Yeah, I can't give you I'm not going to try to give you a specific number. I'll just say we have to now be looking at both variables, and which of them is demanding. If one of them is demanding our focus more than the other, that would tell us what to do with policy. If they're more or less, equally distant and equally or not distant, then we don't have to make that assessment. The assessment is you wait. So I'm not going to try to be really specific about what we need to see in terms of a number. But if we did see significant deterioration in the labor market, of course that's one of our two variables, and we would look to be able to support that. You'd hope that it wasn't also coming at a time when inflation was getting very bad. And again, we're speculating here. We don't know this. We don't know any of these things. It's very hypothetical. We're just going to have to wait and see how it plays out.
Thanks.
Claire Jones, Financial Times. In terms of getting some clarity, we've got some talks at the weekend in Geneva between the US and China. A lot of economists are attaching an awful lot of importance to what we hear from those talks. How much importance are you attaching to them in terms of judging what will happen to the US economy going forward? And just in a similar vein, some economists are saying it's days, not weeks, that we have until we start to put the US economy at risk of seeing the sort of pandemic-era shortages and higher prices if we don't kind of soothe relations between the US and China. So it'd be good to have your view on that too.
So, these are not talks that we're in any way involved in, so I really can't comment directly on them. So, but what I will say is this, we had, coming out of the March meeting, the public generally had an assessment of where tariffs were going, and then April 2 happened, and it was really substantially larger than anticipated in the forecasts that I had seen and in our forecasts. So, and now we have we're in a new phase where it seems to be we're entering a new phase where the administration is beginning talks with a number of our important trading partners, and that has the potential to change the picture materially or not.
Yeah.
And so I think it's going to be very important how that shakes out. But
it clears the unpredictability, or it enforces the unpredictability.
It could change the picture, and we're mindful of not trying to make conclusive judgments about what will happen at a time when the facts are changing.
And just on the fall in shipping volumes from China over these tensions, do you share that concern that we could start seeing goods shortages and higher prices in the coming weeks if this isn't resolved very quickly?
I don't want to get we shouldn't be involved even verbally in the questions about the timing of these things. Yes, of course we follow all that data. We see the shipping data, we see all that, but ultimately this is for the administration to do. This is, this is their mandate, not ours. And I know as you can see, they're again beginning to have talks with many nations, and that has the potential to change the picture materially. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Like may or may not. It's like just give a non-answer again.
Kosuke Takami with Nikkei. Thank you for doing this. The volume of imported goods increased significantly in the first quarter. Do you think that this situation could cause a delay in the impact of tariff on inflation? And does this mean that it will take longer time to reduce uncertainty?
The decision we made today? Which decision?
So the future decisions. So
I didn't really get the question either.
Imported goods increase significantly, so the impact on the imported inflation may delay. So what is the impact to your future decision?
Okay, so I mean, I think we think that there was a big spike in imports, right? Very big, historically large, really, and to beat tariffs. And now that should actually reverse, so that it's the difference between it's exports minus imports. So and imports were huge, and so that it conveyed a very negative contribution to U.S. GDP, annualized GDP in the first quarter, as we all know. So that could, in the second quarter, be reversed, so that we have an unusually large contribution to usually positive. That's very likely as imports drop sharply.
Interesting.
You could also have, very likely you'll have restatements of the first quarter. It'll turn out that consumer spending was higher. It'll turn out that inventories were higher, and so you'll see those data revised up. It may actually go into the third quarter too, and so I think this whole process is going to a little bit make it harder to make a clean assessment of U.S. demand. I mentioned.
Yeah, because of all the uncertainty with tariffs, the spike in imports that countries wanted to do to get ahead of tariffs, that companies did in the U.S., now it's going to take a long time for all of that spike in import to disperse. And so we could still see positive, trade volume and shit, like across, he's saying like potentially even the third quarter, because we're looking at net. It just will take a little while for that to like diffuse.
It's a really good reading, 3% PDFP in the first quarter. That might actually overstate. So it's not really I don't think it's going to affect our decisions. I will just say, though, that it's a little confusing, and it's probably less confusing to us than it would be to the general public as we try to explain this.
That's how I'm interpreting.
And GDP is sending a signal, PDFP is sending a signal. It's a little bit confusing, but I think we understand what's going on. It's not really going to change things for us.
Courtney Brown from Axios. I guess, we talked about some of the indications of potential layoffs, price hikes, an economic slowdown, all being evident in the soft data. I'm curious why the Fed needs to wait for that to translate into hard data.
That's fair. That's a good question.
Make any type of monetary policy decision, especially if the hard data is not as timely or might be warped by tariff-related effects. Are you worried that the soft data might be some sort of false warning?
No, I mean, look at the state of the economy. The labor market is solid, inflation is low. We can afford to be patient as things unfold. There's no real cost to our waiting at this point. Also, the sense of it is, we're not sure what the right thing will be. There should be some increase in inflation. There should be some increase in unemployment. Those call for different responses. And so until we know, potentially call for different responses. And so, until we know more, we have the ability to wait and see. And it seems to be a pretty clear decision.
It seems like
on the committee supported waiting.
If you can wait,
so that's why
and can afford to, it's probably better
Just
to.
a very quick follow-up.
Just risk-wise.
There was this sort of vibe session, if you will, where the sentiments expressed in soft data did not translate into the hard economic data.
Yeah.
How are you thinking about that when interpreting some of the signs in the softer survey data?
I think going back a number of years, the link between sentiment data and consumer spending has been weak.
He said that last meeting too.
On the other hand, we haven't had a move of this, speed and size. So it wouldn't be the case that we're looking at this and just completely dismissing it. But it's another reason to wait and see. You're right that we had a couple of years during the pandemic where people were saying just very downbeat surveys and going out and spending money. So that can happen, and that may happen to some degree here. We just don't know. This is an outsized change in sentiment, though, and so none of us is looking at this and saying that we're sure one way or the other. We're not.
Matt. Thanks, Chair Powell. Matt Egan with CNN. So you mentioned earlier that you're monitoring the shipping data, and we have seen in the shipping data that imports from China into the Port of Los Angeles have plunged, and that has raised concerns about potential shortages. What tools, if any, does the Fed have to ensure that prices and inflation expectations don't get out of hand if tariffs do cause significant supply chain disruptions?
I mean, we don't have, the kind of tools that are good at dealing with supply chain problems. We don't
bro,
they
could raise and lower interest rates, like control bond selling, maybe like cash flow. Like
what we can do with our,
really
our interest rate tool is we can be more or less supportive of demand, and that'd be a very inefficient way to try to fix supply chain problems.
I think that's the point of the journalist, though.
We don't see the inflation yet. We're of course reading the same stories and watching the same data as everybody else, and right now we see inflation, kind of moving sideways at a fairly low level.
If I could follow up on that, President Trump has indicated that he will likely name a replacement for you when your term as chair expires next year. But your position on the board runs through January 2028, I believe. Would you consider remaining on the Fed board even if you're no longer chair?
So I don't have anything for you on that. My whole focus is on, and my colleagues' focus is all on, trying to navigate this tricky passage we're in right now, trying to make the right decisions. We want to make the best decisions for the people that we serve. That's what we think about day and night, and this is a challenging situation, and that's 100% of our focus right now.
They keep trying, though.
Chair Powell, Jennifer Schonberger with Yahoo Finance. Public records of your schedule so far this year show no meetings with President Trump. Past presidents Obama, Bush, and Clinton have all met with Fed chairs, and you met with Trump during his first term. Why haven't you asked for a meeting yet with the president?
I've never asked for a meeting with any president, and I never will. It's not. I wouldn't do that. There's never a reason for me to ask for a meeting. It's always been the other way.
So would you want to meet with him if given the opportunity to get more information?
It's never an initiative that I take. It's always an initiative. I don't think it's up to a Fed chair to seek a meeting with the president, although maybe some have done so. I've never done so, and I can't imagine myself doing that. I think it's always comes the other way. A president wants to meet with you, but that hasn't happened.
And if I could just ask one question on monetary policy. When it is time to cut rates, how will you determine how far down rates will have to come to try to keep a balance on the inflation mandate as employment weakens?
I think once you have a clear direction, you can make a judgment about how fast to move and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Unpredictability, people.
Really the harder question is,
he said it the entire time.
I think, and when will that become clear?
Yeah,
and,
the future is unpredictable due to all the
we have our policy
political and
place,
economic implications right
in
now.
a good place, and it's really appropriate, we think, for us to be patient and wait for things to unfold as we get more clarity about what we should do. Thanks very much.
All right. Yep, this Fed meeting pretty much went like all the others. He didn't lower rates. Then the journalists asked in varying ways when and how the Fed will determine how to lower rates or when they will lower rates, and he gives a various non-answer to every single journalist about how he can't comment, they don't know, blah blah blah. So cool. Fed rates say the same. This is the prediction for next meeting, and so this is this meeting. It's actually somehow not 100% yet. Next meeting, it seems like, though, the consensus is it's staying the same again still after the end of this meeting. Let's actually look at poly market. Let's look at the betting markets because they yeah, no change. We want the next one. 85% chance, much higher than this. It's just changing like live though, I think. Nope, still the same. Betting markets have it as no change January 18th. And it is it's pretty much gone up since then. It's actually, it was a week ago, it was very close. Interesting. This one is still uncertain. All right, yeah. Interest rates staying the same. But it seems like the general consensus is that the future is very unpredictable with current tariffs and just the Trump administration in general. They keep flip-flopping. They don't really know like what their strategy is, like what's behind. Like it's just a lot of unknown and secrecy. But in turn that makes businesses not understand, or not understand, but they want to be certain that their investment will be a good investment, or that they have some sort of idea of like where or how the economy will go after they make the investment. And with how uncertain the economic future is with the Trump administration's policies, things have just kind of like stayed the same. There hasn't been any big spike, up or down, because it's like people are just holding, they're waiting and seeing, like Fed chair keeps saying. So they're doing the same. It does seem like, though, that it's like, because they could afford to wait and see, that like, they're not seeing, like, they don't think that between now and June 18th that there'll be a recession or like there'll be a huge spike one way or the other, that you might as well wait for more data to make a more informed decision. That kind of seems to be consensus. So yeah, still 56%. So it's 56% that they lower it by 25.25%, 25 basis points here. So yeah. All right. That's going to do it for today's stream. Tomorrow we are going to do earnings this week. There's a lot of tech earnings. So we have some earnings this week. We have EA, which we're going to go over. We have Cloudflare, which is today after market. Oh no, the 8th. Oh, that's tomorrow. Okay, we won't go over Cloudflare. We got Cloudflare. What else? DoorDash, which we will look at, because DoorDash also DoorDash bought Deliveroo, and I think that'll be interesting to see. So we'll look at DoorDash, maybe Fortinet, some technology companies. We'll look at Shopify, ARM, AMD, Uber. We won't look at Disney. Yeah, these are all today, so we'll look at earnings tomorrow. And then, but before, in the first thing in the morning, there's an AI hearing that's going to have Sam Altman, AMD CEO Lisa Liu. It's going to have vice president at Microsoft, and one other company, I can't remember. So that'll be first, and then we'll do earnings after, and then any news that we find interesting. And yeah, so I appreciate everyone showing up, hanging out today. I actually had fun today. I really enjoyed today's stream. I thought the topics were interesting. The OpenAI country stuff is actually really interesting. And yeah, so appreciate everyone hanging out. We'll be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific, to do some earnings and the House hearing or Senate hearing on AI. So, all right. See ya. Actually, don't have an ending screen yet. But we're just gonna do it. Peace.